This is the Great One Piece Readthrough, Episode 8, covering Volumes 39 through 45. That is the Enies Lobby and Post-Enies Lobby Arcs, the second half of Water 7. My name is Zach.
And my name is Ed.
On today's show, we have special guest returning with us, the animation director for Rick and Morty and Teen Titans Go. We have Brian Newton. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Zach. Hey, Ed. I'm really excited to be talking about these volumes.
We are more than halfway through the series at this point, and this is like the hump to get over it. It's just like, this is a 7 volumes, and we're just going to plow right through it.
Oh, I'm feeling it, but I'm really psyched.
Now, Brian, we'll try and keep this succinct since I think we're going to be talking a long time today about all this. What are your thoughts on Water 7 and particularly Enies Lobby?
Well, in general, this has a special spot in my heart because this is the arc I caught up on. I've been reading week to week since, yeah. So I remember going through Water 7 not knowing what was going to happen with the series because this is the first time we've seen like a major defeat from the Straw Hats. And that at the time, like the crew's getting broken up, so it's by far the most like intense arc I think we've almost experienced to date.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything? I guess we'll get into Enies Lobby more. Before we get started, we forgot to talk about one of the cover stories last week, I believe, and I think that's the Gadatsu one. And I definitely want to talk about it because I really, really, really enjoy that cover story. If anyone has any particular thoughts, I don't know if you took notes on that. Oh no, you didn't take notes last time, Ed?
No. I did. I just haven't been taking a lot of notes on the cover stories. But I do love the Gadatsu cover story because it's so wacky. Just like Gadatsu himself, like is the forest boss and the earth boss, and you know,
and of course all the gags of him trying to do things but not knowing it. I think all the titles of the stories are Gadatsu. You can't do this and this and this. You have to do it like that, or whatever. You know, explaining very simple motor functions.
Yeah, he motors through.
I love how it connects to Alabasta, though, which is kind of unexpected.
There's an underwater underground tunnel that the Earth Boss builds, or the Dirt Boss, and it's actually Goro is Toto's brother. It's Koza's uncle.
They don't look at all alike, but I guess he did look like that when Toto was was a little heavier. Yeah.
He used to be a heavier dude. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird reading through these, and it feels so recent because we've been doing these all. Anyway,
I also noticed that in this cover story, first time you get to see Peel's body and like the effects of the bomb that hit him.
That's true.
We might as well talk about the other cover story of this of what we were discussing now, and that's the Baroque Works one.
Zach, there's we start in the Eneru cover story by the end of this material.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Baroque Works, though, is finished. We won't talk about Eneru until next time because that's mostly in Thriller Bark.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to talk about there, and a lot that I've already written about it. But, I mean, what did you guys think of the Baroque Works cover story?
One of my favorites.
Do you have it? What's your least favorite?
Maybe Aces.
Yeah, I guess not very
I think a lot of people feel that way because, I mean, Wapples is like the second worst, but it still has all that great comedy.
I like Wapples.
I enjoy Wapples. It's very silly and very fun.
They're all pretty
but I can't think of one that... Yeah, I mean, it's just based on me, like, not liking Wapple as a character compared to... Because, I kind of like all the cover stories equally.
I thought of one that might be my second least favorite, and I think this might be
much
a consensus. Later. Yeah,
okay.
You know it.
Yeah, I have a feeling. We'll get to that.
I was only going on the ones we've done up in the read-through until now, but...
Oh, got it, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that another time. The Baroque Works one is pretty good. I like that there are cameos by a lot of people, including Hina and Django and Full Body.
Love the ending of it with the dreams. We find out that Crocodile's dream was to become the king of pirates like Luffy's was.
Yeah.
And... what were the other ones? Mr. One wanted to be a superhero.
Yeah.
and also, there's more to talk about.
Dressed like, what was it? Black Vulcan from Harvey Birdman?
Yeah, I noticed that too.
A little bit,
Well, we never see this outfit in actual color, but like in black and white, it totally looks like Black Vulcan.
It'll be wasn't the Black Vulcan blue and yellow? I think it was something like that.
Yeah, it's a bluish, blackish color.
Okay, why don't we get into the actual story? I think we've been stalling enough. And we begin on the train. That's where we left off. We are now... The Rocket Man is chasing after the Puffing Tom. And we get the introduction of probably one of the most iconic characters at the end of Volume 38, which is where we're picking up after at the last chapter of 38. But before actually we get to that iconic character, we have the famous scene of the 300-pound cannon. And
Zach, what's 2 times 108?
I don't know.
It's too much. That's too hard to say.
It's too hard to say.
Just round it up.
It was 216, right? That's what they said. Yeah. I don't know why I said that as if it was a revelation. But yeah, it's in the anime, this scene made as much physical sense as you'd imagine it would. Blasting a hole through the water.
That's kind of the part I like about reading through the Sea Train and Enies Lobby in the manga. It felt so much faster, especially in Enies Lobby. But
yeah,
just the way everything seems to happen so much more quickly in the manga is really appealing.
Yeah, because like panels go by lightning fast. So like when they hit the wave, it feels like you hit the wave and you pass through, not you hit the wave and go through a tunnel for like 2 minutes.
Then you're on the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at Disney.
Yeah. Which wouldn't be a bad
I think
ride,
it was supposed to just go straight through in a second. I don't really understand why there was that huge tunnel.
Yeah, it's like the second they hit the wave is when they pass through the wave. It's supposed to happen instantaneously. Yeah. Again, timing in the anime is sometimes off the wall.
I don't understand how Sodom and Gomorrah made it through this at all. Not just that part, but like the whole going through a rocket train and being dragged in the water alongside it. I can't imagine that's comfortable. Anyway, Sanji has this conversation with Luffy, and Usopp decides, this is where I'm going to depart. I have nothing to do with this anymore. I'm leaving. I mean, he's on a train, so he really has nowhere to go, as Frankie points out. But
we get this little bit between Zoro and Sanji about, like, Zoro is trying to... It's surprising to me that Zoro tries to make Luffy, like, make Sanji wait until he shows up. He's like, oh, are you concerned for me? He's like, I would never be concerned for you.
Well, it's great because he is concerned. I actually really enjoyed that little moment because it's like there's several moments specifically in this arc where you see the trust that the crew has in each other and the concern. And this is one of the more concerning bits. He's like, come on, don't. It's risky to seemingly throw his life away for this. Wait until we're all there together.
Well, Zoro and Sanji are basically brothers. They have sibling rivalries that are, yes, probably a little more intense than your typical sibling rivalry. But one day it'll be that sibling thing, and someone will make fun of Sanji, and Zoro will be like, I could say that about him, but you can't say that about him.
Oh, that would be a great moment.
Yeah, I hope that happens one day, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Sniper King or Soga King, as you may also know him, has arrived on the scene. This is
how
something.
Usopp telling Robin's story makes Frankie break out, and he just cries.
Of course.
But the Frankie crying throughout all of this, which culminates at the end of in Volume 45, but with him pretending to be forced to cry, and that, yeah. But that's just the man that he is.
He's a man who could shed some tears, much like Sanji or.
He's a true man. He can hold his heart in his sleeve, but it doesn't make him any less tough.
Exactly. No one's gonna knock Frankie's toughness. So we were talking about how badly the anime did with the Sea Train thing, but the Sniper King thing, I'm gonna say the anime, of course, had an advantage here, because there was actually a song that went with it in the anime, and that can't really exist in the manga.
Snipers.
Yeah, that's like remember when we went to Animazement in 2011, Zach?
Yes.
Yeah. With Yamaguchi-san was there, and the only thing anyone wanted to make him do was sing the Sniper King song.
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
He did. We have that video on our YouTube channel somewhere.
Still awesome.
Yeah, I recorded that with my iPhone, whatever that was back then, 3, 4, I don't know. So.
Stop showing off, Zach.
How is that showing? Okay, I don't know. I'm a techno geek. It's not really a wealth thing. Anyway.
We get that bit with Oh, first we get a little bit with T-Bone, where he's like the Navy captain who's cutting off of his robe to like make a bandage for his men.
Yeah, didn't one of his soldiers just get a bug bite and he like flipped out like it's the worst wound he's ever seen?
Yes, I love it.
I don't know if that was in this chapter, but yeah, that is.
I think that was a little earlier on. We kind of skimmed through T-Bone last week because we had been talking for like 7 hours. I also want to mention the gag about them all changing outfits. Mostly Nami having to change in front of everyone and that being okay by some people, but not Polly.
Yeah, Polly's a prude.
Shameless woman.
I really like the crew dynamics in the Rocket Man. I think throughout this is really funny. And Sanji's technique to get rid of T-Bone and company by just cutting the trains, essentially, or disconnecting. That's the word I was looking for. Including the gag where someone runs out straight into the water, and many more Looney Tunes gags.
I believe that, going back to Polly for a second, I believe the term they used for him in the Japanese version, which always stuck with me, was they called him a cherry boy.
I don't want to ask about that any further.
That might have some significance we may not have here.
No, it pretty much means exactly what you think it means.
Ew.
Got it.
We also find out Frankie's weakness, and that is his backside. As Sniper King tries to stab him in the back, and that doesn't really work. And we get Wanzi, but let's just skip that part.
No.
You like Wanzi?
I love Wanzi. He's so fucking funny.
We made an episode title out of him.
Probably more than one. Wanzi,
don't get mad Wanzi.
You like Satori too, right? And we had the same discussion.
I don't
it's the same
hate
voice
Satori.
Actor.
How have we not
that's true.
An episode called "It's a Mad Wanzi"?
Yeah. Here's what I enjoy about Wanzi. He is by far the most Alice in Wonderland-esque character in the series. Because we know Oda's a big fan of that. So you come into his room and it's just completely bug-eyed weirdo with like all these quirks on top of quirks. He's a fucking lunatic. And he plays with that.
Understatement.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, what do you want to talk about that fight, the Sanji Wanzi fight, since we're talking about Sanji Wanzi? I know it cuts back and forth a lot.
It's nice to see Sanji use something other than his legs in combat, and this gave him a chance to do so.
It's also nice seeing his ability to reshape faces.
Yes, which comes back later.
Yeah. I think the most enjoyable... I have now watched this in Japanese, this fight, watched it in English, and read it. And I think the most enjoyable form was watching it in English, actually. I think I just really hate the Japanese voice actor for...
Because he also voices Satori?
And they sound exactly the same. But I don't hate him in a future role he has, which I'll talk about when we get to that. Maybe, if I remember.
Well, also, like, the actual artwork for when, like, Sanji's trying to kick Wanzi and Wanzi's dodging, it's also really well composed for a fight sequence.
And then we get the Frankie Nero fight.
Yeah.
So
Nero kind of sucks.
I don't think anyone denies that.
Yeah.
Including Lucci. Lucci also says that he sucks.
But I enjoy Frankie in the fight. I just don't enjoy Nero.
I like how Frankie actually pulls off the look behind you trick with Nero.
Yeah, because as Frankie reiterates, hey, I'm a fucking punk from my old town. I'm not going to fight fair.
Mm-hmm.
But I like his idea of not fighting fair is the look behind you trick. I mean, come on. And meanwhile, Sniper King sneaks using his Octo shoes, I think, into Robin's car.
How can they leave her alone like this? This is the part of...
Well, they don't, because Corgi comes in.
Corgi was there, yeah. He's a trusty, reliable Corgi.
Where the hell is she going to go? Is she going to jump into the ocean? Yes, possibly.
But I like that sort of casual conversation they end up having. It's like, the Straw Hats aren't so weak that they need you to worry about them. You know, they couldn't carry on knowing that you sacrificed yourself for them.
Well, it's everything that Usopp says is super important, not just because he just went through all of what we just went through in the last episode of this, but he also it's also it resonates with Robin throughout the arc. You'll see a lot of flashbacks to that particular conversation that Robin has as we go through it.
I also like to point out that this arc specifically is where I dubbed Oda the king of one-liners. For not just like how fights end, but just like character moments like that one with Usopp, where a character will say a line and it just resonates with you for that moment and throughout the whole of the series, I think.
We cut away from the Puffing Tom, and this is when I just want to make a point, because this arc, I think, is the arc of 2-page spreads, or the first one where they're really common. And I think one of the greatest ones at this point is the Castle Gate one, which is the one where Zoro cuts the train into, and you see everyone shocked on both sides of the train.
Rashomon.
Yeah, and then we get that was used, I think, as one of the in-between pages between chapters when there isn't an SBS, I think.
Yeah, I think it is. Because there's a Panda Man, I think, in there too, maybe?
Oh, I'm sure there is.
I'm sure there... Yeah, I see him. There he is.
Yeah. And we get Zombai and all the people back on the Rocket Man impersonating Luffy and Zoro doing the 300-pound cannon.
We have that. And we have the T-Bone fight, which is... it has to be quick because he's standing in the water as the train is coming. And I like how it's done. It's a really... Yeah. It's really cool, and they're clearly not underrating T-Bone because he has to finish him off in one, but they kind of hype him up. Oh, he's this super strong guy, blah, blah, blah.
And he is, and Zoro respects him.
Yeah, the fight with T-Bone's also a moment where it made more sense for me in the anime than it did in the manga. Just like how timing worked out and what moves the move exchange they had.
Definitely. A lot of these are clearly... impossible to by any stretch of the imagination.
Sure.
So animating it, I could see being an enormous challenge, and then delaying it because it's the anime, and then stretching it out, I could see even being tougher.
Yeah, that's when that actually comes as an advantage.
Yeah. I love how they show the sliced Sea King first, to show this T-Bone guy. Yeah, and it's nobody can even believe that Zoro isn't the captain. With how strong he is.
Every time he fights, they say that. From now until we finish doing these read-throughs, that's said.
Yeah, but Zoro isn't a leader. That's not who he is. He's either a loner, but he trusts in Luffy.
They're just judging on raw power. It's kind of like the way fanboys, I would say, oh, well, this person's stronger than this person, so that person's the best. Even though we know Luffy's potentially stronger than Zoro, but not everyone sees it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing the anime does a little bit better is the timing of the end of Frankie and Sanji's fights, and them ending up right in front of CP9. Because
you don't want to skip over that. I do want to say something about the Frankie and Nero fight. I just love the gags with Frankie in that fight. Just the backward centaur and Frankie invincible, where he lays down with his back to the.
Well, that's what I said. I enjoy Frankie in that fight, not Nero.
Yeah.
And this is actually where the manga starts to do that a lot more, where they jump around a lot within chapters, which is really annoying to me when we're reading it week to week. But in the manga, or in the volumes, it bothers me less. But still, it's just it makes.
You really don't like that. You've always.
It makes the volume more of the work of art as opposed to the chapter, I think.
I think though One Piece is always like that. I think it is a much better volume read than it ever will be a weekly read. It's because it's just such an enormous series. It can never be as good on its own as it can be together.
Well, maybe that's also the strength of Oda's writing and storytelling. The fact he can kind of plan things out in advance that way. Because as we've known before, he does the chapter 3 weeks in advance.
Well, I mean, reading through these as quickly as we have, not to get too far off of what we're talking about, has made me realize, because when something happens in volume 24 and it comes back in 45, which happens a lot, as we'll find out.
It's volume 45. What are you going to do?
Right. And 24 was a big one, or 25, I'm sorry, 25 to 45. It feels like only a couple weeks have passed, which is what it's felt like to us, because that's how long it's been since we've read it. But it's weird because for Oda and for the reader, it was years, like 5-6 years. I don't know how long. And it's crazy how he could still make it feel like only weeks have passed, considering that much time has actually gone on in writing it. And I think that's a real credit. And I think it's to what you said, Brian, is he has that ability to write in the long term in a way that we're in such a short term when we do the podcast week to week and we do a chapter a week, that it's sometimes hard to peek your head up over and see what's going on and put yourself in the perspective of the bigger story.
Yeah, because when you're week to week, you have so many theories and ideas flowing through your head at every panel, at every page, that you've already lived the world like several times over before you finally get that reveal.
Yeah, I think we overanalyze, obviously, because that's what we're here to do, and to lift, and to take your head out of the clouds is, I think, important to do time to time. Anyway,
as I've mentioned before, I've been going through these volumes with my color walk in hand, and this volume has some great color spreads. They have that the first one, I think, with all the different characters with the what's it called? It's the Crash, We Can Fight It, and
it's a good one.
It's a good one, and also the companion piece to the other one.
Yeah,
with the
Japanese outfits. I don't know what they're called.
Well, without Robin and Usopp though.
Yes,
I actually have that one. It's in my office right now. I have a big official print of that.
Very cool.
And I actually started to notice in this round of reading that all of my calendars. I have calendars going back to 2009, the bi-monthly calendars. So I get even bigger some of these color spreads. I love it.
So I guess we could pick up here then from the actual quote unquote fight with CP9. So they try everything, whether it's cheap or not cheap, to get Robin back. Smoke screens.
I love when Frankie just rips off the side of the train to escape.
What a heroic, self-sacrificing moment from Frankie there. I mean, what they're trying to do, as the reader reads more about Frankie, they're like, oh, I like this guy more and more. And I think this is a very solidifying moment for Frankie.
Mm-hmm. And right before that, we get the ultimate moment when Lucci casts Nero aside, and it's like, he got so angry at Nero for losing the plot in that, you're not supposed to kill him. You can't kill Frankie. But Nero just lost. And he's like, I'm going to kill that son of a bitch. And he's like, no, you're not. You're done. Bye-bye. I love how cold Lucci is. The things that he says, like, you can kill an 8-year-old to save humanity. The only way Robin can make people happy is for her to disappear.
Rob Lucci is a stone cold professional, and Nero proved not to be a professional.
What I also liked is you kind of see Bluno's comparative strength, because I think Sanji does a real crazy kick to his face and he does flinch a little. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the first time we see any cracks in the armor of CP9. They're kind of somewhat invincible to that point.
Yeah. Bluno has always sort of been...
weaker of them.
Not that he's weaker, it's that he's kind of dumb. Like... Lucci especially seems to treat Bluno like he's
I disagree with that. Bluno's never seemed dumb to me.
Lucci treats everyone like they're dumb.
Yeah, he played the dumb bartender, but he's not. He's way more cunning than that.
I think as well. I think he's a little cocky, and he definitely has some flaws. He is a villain. It's going to happen.
Even what's coming up in Enies Lobby proves that Bluno's not dumb.
No, he actually is. Yeah, you're right. He's the only one to kind of figure out what's going on.
But then he also thought he could take out Luffy by himself.
And that feeds into the cocky angle.
Yeah.
I'm going to mention this probably on the actual podcast, one of these next week. But when people are not actually in the storyline, they don't know that Luffy's going to win it. It's like, how are they supposed to know that Luffy's the protagonist?
They need to get a copy of Shonen Jump.
That's really... It's like Gintama, you have to actually get the Shonen Jump while you're in the Shonen Jump series.
Do you see remember when Lucci laughs at... when they're trying to take Robin back? He just... that you wouldn't expect that from him, but that just makes me hate him even more.
It's kind of difficult.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Lucci as a villain at the very end, definitely, because I think he's kind of interesting in a very different case. But I want to save that.
Really, one of my favorite Luffy fights.
Yeah, we'll save that. That's at the very end-ish. So we finally get to Enies Lobby when everyone else is kind of thrown for a loop. We do get the reveal that Robin, the O'Hara was Buster called, and that's kind of why Robin has been so hesitant to rejoin the crew, because she knows how bad it could be. So they were using her past, essentially, as like a PTSD weapon. Kind of.
Well, yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Shady motherfuckers.
Yeah.
They are.
Oh, Yokozuna returned at one point, too, in these chapters.
Yeah, Yokozuna's around, also.
I actually have that written in my notes, that Buster Call equals PTSD.
Oh, you did?
That's exactly what I wrote.
Great minds think alike here, Ed. And so we see Enies Lobby. It's a daytime island, so it's always day somehow.
Yep.
To this day, we don't really know why that is.
And there's a giant hole.
And there's a giant waterfall hole.
Zach, you can put that in your article and smoke it.
I should. I just don't know how it fits in with everything, so all I'd say is this is odd.
Will.
One of the moons is a mirror, and it hovers over Enies Lobby.
There are worse theories than that. So we also see Spandam and Funkfried and new characters, Jabra, Fukuro, and Kumadori. And what did you think of these three?
Oh boy.
The most serious of the
yes,
group.
very, very, very serious. I can see why they weren't trusted to really do the deep mission.
Fukuru's mouth cracks me up every time. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh my god, a zipper for a mouth is too good. It's too
And
much
he's
fun.
the gossip lover.
Yeah. Oh, what's funny about Fukuru is that when I originally read this character's voice, because the anime hadn't gotten there yet, I always read it as Bobcat Goldthwait. And not until the anime got there did I realize the joke of like him gossiping is the fact he's a little kid who tells everybody secrets.
And he's voiced in the Japanese by Sergeant Frog. Yeah, Kiroro.
Yeah. So it's always Cha-pa-pa, I told everybody, Cha-pa-pa.
I'm gonna get you to do that voice again.
I think I mentioned this on the podcast that I'm a big Kumadori fan, and I have no real good explanation other than for some reason he just cracks me the hell up.
I also like when Frankie bites random people's heads.
Yes, that happens a lot.
Look out, he's a biter.
That's a great line.
So yeah, actually, as we're talking about these three amazing characters, another character walked in, Steve Yurko.
Yo yoy!
Your voice is a little different than I remember.
I am Steve Yurko.
So you haven't been on since like the first read through.
I have not been on. I was in spirit though, because Brian did an awesome impression of me on the last Skypea episode.
That was a very good impression, Brian. I gotta say, I was very impressed.
Thank you.
Can you do that again? That Steve impression?
I'll try it. I'll go for it right now. As
I'm Steve Yurko. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm such a stupid head. Look at me.
That was great, Brian.
how was that, Steve? Did that sound like you?
Wow, holy crap. It was like I was looking in the mirror, except I didn't look like me.
So what do you think about these three characters, Steve?
I'm sorry I was running late. I just want to talk about Spandam. I love Spandam.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about Spandam
okay.
that much. We talked
he
about it last
spills-
week.
He
but
spills his coffee.
He
does
looks
that
like
this way.
mankind.
Yeah.
And sure, I haven't listened to the previous one, so I'm pretty sure Ed filled you guys in on all that. But yeah, I guess we could talk about the other members of CP9. They're a goofy bunch, you could say. While Lucci and his crew have been pretty straight-faced ever since their heel turn, these guys are a little more One Piece. They're a little more gimmicky. Well, for the time being.
Khalifa gets wackier during
Yeah.
the fight, but not.
Hey, that's sexual harassment, Ed.
No, it isn't.
But besides that, we also see that there's a giant waterfall in the middle of Enies Lobby, but that isn't really explained either.
Yet.
Yes.
So the plan was they're going to let the underlings, the Frankie family and Paulie and all them go first and clear everything out. but something happens that ruins that plan, and that's that Luffy jumps ahead because that's what Luffy does.
Yeah. Well, first note, Chopper and Luffy have to meet Sogeking and ask for his autograph.
Oh, I'm sorry. Important things.
Yeah. Luffy just doesn't understand. He's gonna. Robin. He says Robin's a jerk. He's gonna take her back either way. He's got a new movie he wants to try out. I wonder what that means.
I should also mention Sogeking or Sniper King has one of the greatest lines ever. When Chopper asks, "Where is Sniper Island?" He says, "It is inside your hearts."
I think that was the second time he did it. When he first introduces himself, it's this little bubble that's partially obscured because no one's listening to him.
Yeah, no one cares.
Yeah, the Sniper King stuff was already really awesome, and then just now getting to see him interact with such gullible guys like Luffy and Chopper, it's even better.
So this whole section of the story are fights. So instead of going chronologically back and forth, which I know Ed loves, as we've discussed.
Luffy tries for a right-handed punch. He misses. He goes for a left-handed punch. He misses that. Yeah.
We're going to go fight by fight. Might as well start with just Luffy rampaging.
Gum Gum Ally Robot.
There's the ally robot, there's the volcano, there's just running through crowds.
Attacking those guys, I like to call the Optimus Prime faction of the Marines. I don't know. They got Optimus Prime helmets.
The
guards.
The
guards, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we talk about color spreads or anything that much.
Ed did just mention them.
The Straw Hats versus CP9.
I'm a big fan of that one.
Chapter 377.
Yeah.
I thought this was the coolest thing ever, and I always wanted a poster of it.
Did you
and
ever
also,
get one?
No, because they didn't make them. You got to make your own.
Sad.
And Frankie being included with the Straw Hats, I remember at the time it was a big thing in the fan community. Like, this has to mean Frankie's joining.
Yeah, because at the time, a lot of people were still speculating that Paulie and Kaku would join the crew.
Kaku, right?
Still clinging on to that Kaku.
Yeah. I bet people are still doing it.
Not gonna happen.
Oimo and Kashi are asleep, guys.
Yeah, it's the interesting thing is this all takes place in the middle of the night, which is easy to forget.
My god, I forgot about that.
Because they have to wake up the giants.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys want to talk about let's just talk about the giants now. I know this is going to be somewhat out of order, but there's just the fights go back and forth a lot.
Yeah.
What were your guys' initial thoughts on that? Brian, do you want to?
Holy shit. I was like, mind blowing right here, because by this point we hadn't seen giants in close to like 200 chapters, and then they just like show up and what the great thing about specifically that one page when the Frankie family encounters the giants, you truly get a sense of Oda's scale. Like you see humans with big humans with giants, and you understand how even like the Frankie Destroyer family, those three big brothers or those three big guys, pale compared to the size of a real giant. I thought that sequence was excellent.
Yeah.
Ed?
The giants, they bring back sort of, they tie into the larger world, and I love how it just sort of ties Enies Lobby up with, things that, people, Little Garden seemed like an excursion. It seemed like kind of irrelevant after it happened. But this brings it back. It just, Oda plans ahead. That's what he does.
Steve?
Let's say we remember the giants from Little Garden, Dory and Brogy, and they were a big deal. They were very tough. So now it's like, we got two giants ahead of us. This isn't going to be easy. Though you can imagine that they're obviously going to fall. They're going to be fodder for the Frankie family and Galley Law, but they still look fearsome. They're a little more cartoony than Dory and Brogy. Well, that's hard to say. Brogy was pretty cartoony. Oimo has a lot of resemblance to
Brogy.
Brogy, as Kashi is more of a Dory kind of guy.
Mm-hmm. I guess. Yeah.
I really like their designs though. I think I like their designs more than I like the Little Garden Giants designs. Yeah, because the Little Gardens are just like big Vikings.
That's true.
I mean, they seem this way too, Oimo and Kashi.
Yeah, but they stand out a little more because like Oimo has this really like egg shape,
This
And
just
then-
makes me excited for eventually going to Elbaf and seeing
got a-
tons of these guys.
Yeah,
Got a
exactly.
Pig nose too. They also they haven't grown in their beards yet. So.
Yeah, they are younger.
Yeah, they're teenagers in giant years.
Kind of, yeah.
They get attacked. The Sodom and Gomorrah bite them.
Oh, they get like brutally injured, and the worst.
Yeah, true.
I feel so bad because these guys are like clearly so nice, and they're being used. We find out a little later, and everything with Sniper King, which is all great, but they get just pummeled repeatedly, and even after we find that out, they get hurt a lot. They're the butt of all the violence, and it makes me ache a little. I think we talked about that with the Frankie family last week. It's like once they, when they're going to be allies, it kind of hurts to watch them just get massacred.
And now looking at it now, chapter 379 also has like a summertime color spread. So that's like 4 color spreads in the span of like less than 10 chapters.
Maybe there's
between
something special going on.
volumes 39 and 40. That's a lot.
But 379 has something much more important, Ed, and that's power levels. Because how are we going to get through this without power levels?
First, before we get to that, the previous chapters where we get the first 5 casualties report to Spondum. He's like, 5 casualties? What the fuck? What's wrong
No,
with you?
let me revise that. It's 5. Yeah, it was 5. It was 400, and then no, let me revise that. It's 5.
5.
And then all
Gets
great.
hit in the head.
Yeah, it's a great gag. I'm not going through the power levels. As you could all guess, though, the strongest one is Kumadori, because, come on.
We're very lucky. I think the dude once said this. When this was introduced, he was very worried that this was going to become a thing in One Piece. Luckily, it's just a government thing.
No, luckily, it's just a Fukuro thing, it seems.
Well, I honestly think after rereading this may show up again recently, but I think Steve's right. It may only be restricted to how the government perceives the world.
Yeah. Which is all fine and dandy.
Let's get the scouters out, Steve.
I forgot how many wide shots there are during Enies Lobby. There's some awesome... there's so many awesome crowd shots.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when Lucci and the gang return, that big panel with just the with Kumadori and the others just turning around the couch looking back on them. There's so many awesome shots in this. Like at the time, Oda still left a lot of panels with room to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't have as much like story to tell and much characters to jam in there. So like every chapter could feel like you can involve the environment a little more.
Steven and I have been like trying to figure out what the apex of Oda's drawing ability has been through the series, and I thought Water 7 was actually kind of a bit of a downgrade from Skypiea in the manga, not the anime. Just art-wise, but Enies Lobby I think looks really damn beautiful throughout. I think he does a very good job.
I remember my theory from last week that Water 7 is intentionally drawn a little bit off to make it seem
Desperate and
not desperate.
gritty.
It's like disconnected. It's intended to make you feel uncomfortable because things aren't quite right. But maybe that's a little too meta for Oda.
I mean, it's possible. Because Enies Lobby looks back on model, whatever the mod, even though Chopper obviously looks a lot different than he did.
Chopper's looked that way ever since Skypiea.
Yeah. Chopper is in full normal Chopper, as we know him today. He looks like
mascot
that.
Chopper.
But
yeah, he's really simplified his design.
They're just beautiful 2-page spreads throughout this arc. I mean, as we move from the fodder fights to the Luffy Bluno fight, there's just some iconic ones. Luffy throwing Bluno into the ground, for example. And just some of just Luffy beating up random fodder. Some of those 2-page spreads are just beautiful.
While we're still talking about the art, this is something... This is one of the reasons why I've been really dying to be on the read-through, so I could just talk about his progression, his change in style. And yeah, going back to the Water 7 stuff, it's... I don't want to sound too insulting. It's a little wonky.
Yeah.
It still has his Skypiea style, but I don't know, the character faces like Luffy's. It's a lot. I don't know how to describe it. It's so much different. I think by the time the story gets to Enies Lobby, I've said this before, and I think I'll say this. This is like the beginning of I'd say the height of Oda's artwork in the series.
Yeah, rereading these, I feel like this is his Dragon Ball Z.
It looks so good. He's kind of shaken off. Like I forgive me, I can't think of a good word to describe how like characters like Luffy look. Just I feel like Luffy's pupils were a little further out.
Yeah,
maybe
I noticed
like his
Water
eyeballs.
7.
Yeah, I think the mouths tend to be a lot bigger. Enies Lobby is just, his artwork is freaking amazing.
Which is so weird because I think a lot of us started with the anime.
Yeah.
And the anime it's the opposite. Water 7, I think, is some of the best looking anime episodes. The End of Skypiea and Water 7, I think, is the pinnacle for the anime. And Enies Lobby is just this long slog downward into the abyss for the anime.
I'd agree with you.
But the manga is kind of the inverse, not the inverse, but it's not the same. Enies Lobby looks fantastic, I think, consistently. Considering it's just a lot of fighting, I mean, the plot isn't necessarily moving where you might at the pace you want it to, but it looks beautiful, I think.
And the characters are so expressive, especially like Frankie and Spondum. So many just great expressions. I love this stuff. I love going back and looking through this. Not saying that I'm not saying One Piece doesn't look great today. It still does, but you could see that he's moving quicker just to get it done. While I'm looking at one page,
and you could tell because the chapters are also much shorter now, and he also has had health issues. So who knows?
Yeah. Like I'm not going to harp on that. There's tight deadlines, and Oda has to juggle a lot of stuff, way more than he was doing back in 2005.
What's funny about this, a little later in this these volumes, is when we got the first serious health condition from Oda, which prevented him from doing more chapters.
What was that?
It was right when the Frankie Fukuro fight. He took like a month or two off.
Did he?
Really?
Yeah. I didn't know about that.
Yeah,
I was still getting into
either.
But that's why that one sequence in the anime when they had all those like filler recap episodes.
Yeah.
That's why that happened. Because there's so much content that they couldn't like.
I thought that
Well,
happened
it's
because
also
they
because of
switched
the-
time slots.
Time slots, yeah.
No, well, it's funny because like around that same time, like Oda took the break, so that means they're still doing 2 for 2, like 2 chapters for one episode.
No, by the time they started Enies Lobby in the anime, it was definitely like one chapter.
One or one
maybe.
and a half.
Actually, the first episode of Enies Lobby was paced very well. Afterwards,
But that makes sense because that's usually like a year behind.
Yeah.
So they would have already known that. Oh wait, Oda took like 2 months off, so we need. We're going to catch up sooner than later, so we need to like readjust our schedules.
We have a long way to go, guys. We're only in like the second volume here.
Sorry,
so I just wanna keep it
I finally got to talk about the art thing.
No, that's one of the reasons I've wanted to have you on, Steve, for a while.
But in this same chapter where they're talking, we get Khalifa and her sexual harassment stuff, and Jabra and Lucci going at it like dogs and cats and stuff like that. And we get a little bit of Spondum's ideology. Spondum finds the current government far too weak. He intends to enforce justice, peace through murder is his ideology. He actually says fishmen must be eliminated.
Yeah, I thought that was very
Does he?
random. He does.
Yeah, he does.
It's weird and random.
In chapter 379, yeah.
He's a racist, just to add on to everything else that you don't like about Spandam.
Well, seems in
Yeah,
this
and-
world everyone's racist against fishmen.
Yeah, and he's a woman beater, which is again that's the horrible.
Spandam, I think
Spandam
we've
is
talked
weaker
about
than an
before.
average man. He's weaker than the average man.
He's weaker than, but he's got a big sword. It's compensating for all the other things. But Spandam, we've talked about it. Probably the most evil of the villains in the series, and I still tend to agree. He's just no.
He's pretty
know.
bad.
The current
I can't
one-
get on. Yeah, I can't get on Spandam's side at all. Like I could roll with Crocodile, even Doflamingo, but I can't roll with Spandam.
Hey, I never
I don't know.
agreed.
Caesar was pretty evil.
Well,
Yeah.
let's not talk about future villains. If
I never agreed on Spondum's ideologies, but I just love his design.
I want to talk about the devil fruits and specifically
Yeah.
the ones that Kaku and Khalifa decide to eat and
They
don't
taste like
enjoy.
poop.
Yeah,
This is the first time we've seen characters eat devil fruits in Sid's
Luffy.
Luffy and Buggy. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
Buggy
they
was
don't
a
actually eat
flashback.
them. They don't actually eat them for a while after they get them.
It's
Not that long. It's like a
chapter two.
a chapter or two, yeah.
We've skipped over the flying rocket man and the dog guards, guys. My favorite characters of all
Oh,
time.
okay, there's a reason we skipped over these. I also mentioned the Rocket Man because
Well, the flying. I love the fact that they get the doors open and then Zoro
for hostages. That part or no?
No. The part where they go over the door and instead of going through the door that was just opened.
Oh yeah, it's like why did we do all that?
Yep. But Soga King, he tries to take all the credit for that. And this is also where we get the Pirate A gag with Zoro and Sanji.
So
It's like,
good.
oh, maybe you're Pirate B. Come on. No one knows who Sanji is.
Moving past from the devil fruits, we don't find out exactly what they do for a little while. Spandam is holding the golden Denten Mushi that calls a buster call, and he hovers his finger over it, saying, "Ooh, if I do this, the entire island will disappear. I have the authority." And then a guy runs in and yells, "Oh my god, I could have pressed that button." And we find out that that we're going to find out what happened to Luffy. Spandam's finally going to find out after defeating 5 whole people what's going to happen to Luffy. So he goes over, he's like, I got to tell Robin and Frankie this. They're going to cry. And we find out that no, they've reached the square and they've taken out, what was it? Thousands, I think?
Maybe like 2,000.
Over 2,000.
Over,
Yeah, because there's
over
10,000
2,000.
soldiers. 10,000 soldiers on Enies Lobby.
And we see a badass spread with Zoro and Sanji in front of the fallen King Bulls.
I love all the stuff of them trying to reach this courthouse, like with the Sodom and Gomorrah going down right after the oath. Yeah, it's
back and forth. We kind of talked about the fights. I don't want to go chronologically because it'll take for fucking ever.
That's
right.
And there's a lot.
Just for people who haven't read this arc, this specific volume 40. It's jam-packed with Straw Hats rushing to get to a location. I think it's the best Oda's done.
Let me put it this way. I think Volume 40 is an awesome volume, but there's not that much we could discuss other than this was badass. This was badass. This was cool. I like how this was done. So I don't want to spend too much time doing
we
that.
can't get into it. Just again,
we probably shouldn't.
And if I could add anything, it's that animals are also badass.
And so are jurors with giant chain
the
balls.
jurors suck. What the hell's the point of the jury? And they
The guilty jury and the guard dogs.
They're just awesome S&M characters.
They look like Demolition from the 80s, from the old
right.
WWE days.
And we get the origin of Sodom and Gomorrah as well, which is awesome.
That's
They were, that they were just king bulls that were inside the stomach of a sea king that Frankie and the family killed. That's quite the origin story.
They're already too full, so they didn't eat them as well.
Since we're going to be introduced here to Baskerville, Ed, I want to ask you, do you, as a lawyer, I mean, not me too, but I want to ask you, do you like the court kind of theme to this, as ridiculously played as it is?
I loved how the court was depicted in the last episode we did, where it's it's a complete sham. It's the only way, no one ever comes out of there alive. But we see that the reason is why it's from this guilty jury.
The guilty jury with the giant mace balls, or what do you call those?
But Baskerville is such a gag character. I almost don't even know what to make of him.
Have you never argued in front of a judge like this before, Ed? I know I have.
I mean, instantly, I remember when this character was introduced, it struck me of memories of Monty Python, Quest for the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
It's as silly and ridiculous and awesome as that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, and the Giants end up betraying the government because of Soga King. He gets left behind when they jump onto the king poles, and he sort of goes flying, and he thinks he's getting a water attack from it's actually Oimo's tears.
Oh yeah, that's a great scene. I mean, we kind of talked a little bit about it, but I mean that's just such an important moment for Usopp. Mm-hmm. And I think we don't know the full ramifications, but I'm sure I'm sure one day he will reunite with those two. We'll talk about at the very end, I guess.
It's like poop. And then that's the devil fruits. They taste like poop.
So I want to talk about one of the highlights of Enies Lobby for me, and that's Luffy versus Blueno. And I think the anime does an amazing job with this fight, even if it's split up a little bit.
That's why you have to re-edit it.
Yeah, exactly.
we said this a lot last week, Steve. I don't know if you've heard this, but at this point in the series, One Piece is a series. It's like raw materials for fan edits.
The anime.
What do you mean? Well, yeah, what do you mean exactly?
Everything is so spaced out that it's kind of hard to watch. Like if you want to watch a fight, you got to wait through 3 episodes, and
this one takes a long time.
Yeah, this is like Enies Lobby like later still has kind of like chapters entirely devoted to a fight, but yeah, this is like a precursor to what One Piece fights would become much later. Is okay, this fight begins, and it's just gonna constantly go on for the next bunch of chapters.
Yeah, but in the manga, the Bluno Luffy fight didn't take that long.
No, I mean they dropped little tiny hints of it earlier, but it's mostly condensed into 2 to 3 chapters, I think. Yeah. So we got to talk about Gear 2.
Luffy has to become stronger so he can never lose his friends again.
Ed, you were nice enough not to spoil this for me, and I was shocked. I'm like, oh, there is a Super Saiyan in One Piece.
That's what you thought?
Well,
Everyone thought that.
That's what it is.
It's more like Kaioken.
Okay, yes, that's accurate. That is more what it's like. Steve, what did you think when you first saw Gear 2?
Super Saiyan.
Okay. Brian, is that?
Yeah, kind of.
But really, if you want to get technical, it's more fun to say Super Saiyan, but if you want to get technical, Kaioken is correct. It's the Kaioken of...
Just like the speed of his attacks, like that. The first jet pistol that he fires at Bluno, like, you can't keep up with me anymore. It's time to go. Yeah, and Luffy, like he's such a combat genius, as we've said before, that he figures out how the 6 forms work. He's able to fight Bluno on his own terms, and Bluno's like Bluno can't even believe this is happening to him. Basically.
Not the first time Luffy's seen the Shuryu or the shave technique. Oda even indicated that it's the same technique that Captain Kuro uses.
Yes.
Yeah,
well, they said it's not the same, but they're very similar. So he said the difference was Kuro can't see what he's doing; he doesn't have control of what he's doing.
Yeah,
but it's of the same speed, so Kuro would get his ass whooped. I think was what the SBS about that said. It is similar. I think the difference is they have control over it, and now Luffy does as well.
I just want to say, besides this, they also foreshadow Zora's aura-bending powers when he fights. When he's fighting in the courthouse?
Yeah,
he's like a demon, and it's subtle foreshadowing.
And Luffy foreshadows the 3rd gear, which we see a little later. Yes. I'm glad we don't have to be coy about this because this all gets resolved in this read-through.
Yeah. But Zach, I think it's about time for that volume.
Oh my God, 41? Okay,
yeah.
This is going to be the bulk of what we're talking about today, I think. And we're going to be saving a lot of this probably for the Reverie segment, although a lot of it still, to this day, has not been resolved very much at all. But before we get to the good stuff in volume 41, I mean, I love that cover. We kind of been skipping over the covers. I like 40 a lot as well. But it's just a very different kind of... It's like an old school kind of cover. It looks like something out of like Drum Island or something.
I wasn't a big fan of this volume cover actually when it originally came out. I maybe because I honestly thought that Olvia was blonde because I thought Oda was going to continue with the Uma Thurman thing.
Everyone thought that.
Yeah. Kill Bill. Yeah. And also I know Luffy kind of has his head down as he's kind of like, it's kind of like he's moving his hat over his face to cover his expression. It just comes off really flat though, because you're looking at Luffy straight on, so it always looked really awkward to me.
In comparison to Volume 40, which is a really awesome cover.
It's very kinetic. It's very kinetic, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I can see the thing about the it feeling very flat, but I actually enjoy the fact Luffy's obscuring his face because we don't know what's going on. Like he could be seething with rage or seething with emotion and tears.
Yeah, and like he's not really the major factor through most of this volume. And I just feel like Sogeking also gets a little bit lost. There's so much red and Sogeking, since we're seeing him from the back, so we see mostly his cape, it gets a little lost. It's not a terrible cover. It's not one I'm a big fan of.
So let's get into the actual volume.
We start off with pocket snacks.
Oh, Yes, of course, because he needs to refuel.
Yeah, he wishes he had bigger pockets.
Meat.
And this is really setting up probably one of the most iconic scenes in One Piece, where people are assembling on the roof on one side and on the other side.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk. I thought you were talking about coup de bout when
Sorry,
Frankie makes his
well,
ass expand.
It's important to note that like Frankie's like, you know, you have to tell them that you want to live. You have to accept. That's the only way you can escape. You have to accept their help. That's the only way you can live.
Go ahead.
But Frankie does his, and Spondum does his happy dance in the anime from this scene, which I love. Where he's just like dancing in place.
Maybe because I was for some reason I was very I downloaded like all these episodes way back in the day, so I was very familiar with these Enies Lobby episodes, and I could still remember the anime well enough that, man, they nailed some of these panels down where they got Oda's likeness into that anime. I don't think that's still a thing these days. There's so many. I feel like the anime now kind of it's more a rush job, so they don't really try to nail Oda's artwork a lot. And I'm just going through these, and I remember the anime very well, and just how much closer they were to Oda's style in some of those episodes. And I remember the episode when Frankie uses coup de bout.
It's the little things.
And I remember them nailing the likeness down.
Yeah, the coup de bout looked exactly the same. Really does.
Like from Frankie, like when he says like, "Hey, Sponda," that panel I'm thinking of specifically, and even like Spondum's expression, they did a good job. But we're talking about the manga.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love everyone gets up to the top of the courthouse in the Tower of Law, and Zoro goes. He is like, I have to go up, right? Let's go up. And Sanji gets to the top. He thinks he's going to be the first one there. He's actually second to last. So arrives.
I love Sanji's reaction to seeing Zoro. He's so upset he can't even come up with an insult. He's just like, Moss.
In the anime, you actually see Sanji Vision, and he has like a green moss afro.
Yeah.
And I like how Sniper King's entrance is somewhat off-screen. I don't know, do we see him actually land? I think we just see him after he lands.
No, you never see him land.
But you hear him land.
Yeah.
As the CP9 looks at him. I also someone pointed this out. Someone tweeted the OP read-through thing. How the chapter prior to this ends with the CP9 assembling. And this chapter ends. Maybe you pointed this out. I forget who pointed it out.
No, I hadn't gotten there, but I agree.
And this chapter ends with the Straw Hats assembling on the roof. So it's this really cool dynamic. And this spread is just so amazing and important. Go ahead,
What's interesting is that I always pegged this CP9 as like the anti-Straw Hats. And I felt that way since that decisive battle of Enies Lobby cover. Because you almost pair off each Straw Hat one for one, like Spottum, Soge King, or Sniper King, Luffy, Rob Lucci, Bluno, Robin. It kind of like works out where like you can compare characters like, oh, that person would be like the anti-version of that person.
At the same time, some are just like deviations. I completely there's no one who compares to Fukurodori or Fukuro, maybe Chopper. I don't know, but just because of the voice and sometimes the size.
Yeah. But Robin, I love how Robin's like declaring, "I didn't ask you to save me. I still want to die." And Luffy's like, he's like picking his nose, like, "You can die, but only after we save you." Like, come on.
I decide when you die. You don't decide when you die.
So you have to say it to their faces, Robin. You got to say it. Say it.
I also like how we get a couple.
Say it.
No.
If you're gonna, I'm just like, Zach now just made me think that Luffy talks like Bane from Dark Knight Rises.
Nope, no Bane voice on this.
I'm just saying, like, it's like, first you must rejoin the crew, and then you have my permission to die. I'll just say it like that. I kind of chuckled when I heard Zach say that.
The lead up to the flashback here, which has some little foreshadows, is very. It's pretty gut wrenching, kind of. Just it's Spandam declaring what he's going to do, what he can do, and
Well, he's trigger happy.
Yeah.
He just thinks like, oh, hey, don't make me push the button. And Robin's pretty.
I could just push the button at any time.
Robin says, oh, you only talk about islands. You always talk about, oh, we blew up this island or this island's gone. Like, can you, like, do maps talk about people? Do your maps of all these islands or all these countries show the people that you killed? Just showing that how just heinous they are, how they don't consider human life at all.
Yeah.
And I do kind of appreciate the fact that Spondum is really reveling in their emotional pain. But at one point, Jobber's like, we could kill her right now. Like the Scott Evil of CP9. But nope, Spondum has to revel in the pain.
I didn't even realize that. I don't know how we make so many Austin Powers references. Anyway, I think it's time to talk about this flashback. Do you want to go through it like, bit by bit, or do you want to just talk about the flashback? We probably should do bit by bit. A lot happens.
No, let's talk about it all in one sentence.
Well, we could. So we start out with Cinderella story that is Robin's childhood.
Yeah.
As the stepchild. Well, not really, but as
she's a genius. She's a genius 8-year-old doctor, but also she is looking desperately at other children who have parents, and they're like, "Oh, what are we having for dinner tonight? Oh, we'll make whatever you like. Hey, Robin, you can have a slice of bread, but don't eat too much jam. Love, your aunt."
You could have the hot dogs thawing in the sink.
I do. I love this little bit of knowledge that I had overlooked previously. The Tree of Knowledge is 5,000 years old.
Jeez.
That's like the first point on the timeline, is that the Tree of Knowledge is 5,000 years old. That's like the first point in the One Piece timeline.
Yeah, the tree itself is that old. We don't know when the island of O'Hara is set up, or like the people.
Yeah.
It's, I think, the oldest thing we've seen, like, with dated to this point, because most things are within the last millennia. We're going to talk a lot about the last millennia, the Void Century and stuff. But most things seem to happen within that period, so it's kind of crazy thinking 3,000 years.
It's so infuriating when you read, like at the very beginning of the flashback, when the kids are throwing rocks at her, it's like... because she has powers, but like the mother's like, stay away from my kids, freak. That's just like the most infuriating thing. I mean, you're supposed to discipline your children for throwing rocks at people. Fuck.
Well, let's get away from that and go to the temporarily more happy stuff. Sorry, I'm very Inside Out related right now, but what do you think of the archaeologists here? The introduction.
They're a ray of light on a dark day for Robin. Basically, that's like it's what she clings to, because that's what her mother was. You have to find the one thing that makes you happy when you're in a bad situation.
Professor Clover is such a One Piece design.
I also love that character. I know we're going to be talking about a particular pet peeve I have with the series soon, but I really do love Professor Clover. I love the design, and with the lion on the back. That kind of looks like the Thousand Sunny lion a little, if I recall. I'm just trying to find a picture with that ridiculous looking lion.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that too.
And just the hair that actually looks like a clover, and with all great. Plus his personality, echoes everything I believe about knowledge and the importance of books and literature and history, which are all very important things to me as well, and the need to preserve the past and just I love everything about Professor Clover, despite what may happen later, and it makes it all the more heartbreaking as things continue.
So she's forbidden to join in their secret underground basement.
Their Satanist cult. I'm sorry, their poneglyph research.
Yeah, poneglyph research. So she runs away and finds a giant on the beach.
We also get the reveal that her mother, Nico Olvia, is out there, probably dead or captured. Although we find out more about that a little later.
I like how Saul tries to scare her when she first meets her. He's like,
"Oh yeah,
She just sort of stares at him.
I'm a scary monster."
Somehow she's not scared.
That completely fits the Robin that we know today, too.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
There are 6 like traditional giants that I can think of in the series. It's actually one of the more interesting trivia questions that I thought of when I was reading through this. We have the 4 Elbaf giants, and the other 2 giants have something in common. They're both vice admirals in the Marines. They're not, but they're not.
John Giant, you mean?
Yeah, John Giant and Jaguar D. Saul are both non-Elbaf. No, they don't look like Elbaf giants, at least. John Giant might be from Elbaf. I don't think he is.
I doubt it.
Yeah, but they're both Marine vice admirals.
I forget about John Giant, even though he was like the first.
John
Marine
Giant
guy
is in
introduced.
these volumes, Zach.
He's very easy to forget.
Well, we just knew his name was John Giant. We didn't know he was an actual giant until a little later.
We didn't know he represented his species.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess he's the first giant we see too.
And Saul's laugh.
I love Saul, and I want to mention this arc, and I think this arc in particular, and the Davy Back fights, and I talked a little bit about it when we were talking about that last week. I have the English dub voices in my head more than any other part of the series, which is a good thing, I think. Saul in particular.
Going back to the read through, I'll have to add, I've been hearing mostly Funimation dub voices.
Right, yeah. Saul, I think in particular, has a very good voice in the Funimation dub. Like,
yes,
it strikes a chord.
Well, they're in Texas, so you got to run with it when you get a character with a cowboy hat.
Except for Robin.
No, they did that in New York, Ed, and look what happened.
Good point. Yeah, Robin runs with the cowboy hat too later.
Maybe it's a ode to Saul.
I'm hoping that's the case.
Well, Saul strikes me kind of like, and it's not like and it wasn't even like a giddy up partner, but like has a little bit of that southern drawl, which you could see kind of like Saul looks like that kind of guy.
He looks like a prospector.
Well, in this little outfit that he's wearing,
yeah,
whatever you may call it. He looks like he would have a drawl. I wouldn't say he doesn't look like a bumpkin. Maybe a little with the hat and the shirt,
well,
but
not when he's in his Marine uniform.
Not when he's in his Marine.
He's a castaway. That's the only reason why he looks a little rough.
But he definitely looks like he's a clearly very intelligent guy. He is a D, which is very interesting. Yeah. It's the first giant we've seen with that middle initial,
and also the first Marine officer that we know of with a D.
We find out later in this read-through, obviously, that there's another. But this is the first one we find out that was a Marine officer, although he is a deserted Marine officer.
But he tells Robin to laugh to hide the pain that you feel, and that's like her life right there. Yeah.
It gets heartbreaking. It's nice. It's very cute.
It's just Saul's bad luck that he landed on the island that like the worst island for him to land on. It's just
what shitty luck.
Yeah.
We're also introduced to Spandine in the CP9 from 20 years earlier.
I absolutely love Spandine. Like, as far as design and kind of like a cool officer goes, I think he's much cooler than his son.
Oh, well, that's not a very hard thing to do.
No, it isn't, but still.
He's very Yakuza looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like, it adds to the reasons to hate Spandam, because he also mooched off of his father, it seems.
Well, no, his father's like, if I die, my son takes my place. Ah!
Is it okay to mention, I don't know his name, but the man to Spandine's left on the right of the panel, wearing the gloves and the glasses and the facial hair, do you know who he is?
No, but he has a cool design.
No. You know.
I don't know his name. That's Khalifa's father.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That got answered.
Was that in an SBS?
I think it was an SBS.
Is the SBS one of the data books?
Yeah,
data book it could be. No, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's I don't know who the guy in the cowboy hat and the shades is. He kind of just looks like some sort of I don't know, Stevie Ray Vaughan looking guy. I don't know.
He hasn't pooped his pants yet. That's Stevie Ray Vaughan. I forget.
That's a really cool piece of trivia. I was going to mention that I really like his design, and I definitely see the resemblance now that you mention it. I mean, there's some.
They wear the same kind of glasses too.
Which means that Khalifa and Spadam are CP9 legacy.
I mean, they also kind of have the same facial expressions, like the "I'm pissed at you" and you know why, sexual harassment.
Yeah, maybe they grew up together.
God, that'd be weird.
That would be weird. I mean, I assume Khalifa is significantly younger. I'm sure the dates of their birthdays are out there. I just do not feel like looking that up.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
Anyway, we get like kind of the juxtaposition of Clover realizing the shit that's going down, Robin laughing with Saul, both of them oblivious, and Spandine approaching.
But also the mother shows up on the island.
And then the mother shows up on there. Oh.
Oh, and just an interesting thing to note that the uncle is Olvia's younger brother, so we don't know anything about Robin's father's family.
No.
But they specifically mention the father, and we get a silhouette of her with her two parents, I think?
No, it's just her mother. We never see the dad.
No, I think there's a silhouette. It's a little later on. I think it's toward the end of the arc with her holding two people's hands. Unless that was just the idea of having parents, but
It might be.
They mention the father, and when she heads out on the boat, which we see in her little mini flashback, like when she leaves Robin alone, they mention that, you know, it was her husband. They mentioned something about her husband.
Yeah, he was an archaeologist too, and he went out before.
Will fulfill your husband's wishes, which makes me think he's either dead or very far away. People have mentioned a possibility that it's the person that we later find out to be Luffy's father. Which is in this episode, which is why I'm finally okay saying
Which would
that.
be weird.
I don't believe that, because I don't think they have
think so
siblings. That doesn't, or regular siblings.
That's like the yin to the yang of my old theory that Roger was Robin's father.
Yeah.
It always made sense to me because he knew how to, or at least he understood the poneglyphs. So.
I still think, I mean, obviously that theory is not true, but I would, there are parts of it that make a lot of sense. Yeah. But even younger Robin is even more heartbreakingly cute, and her head is the size of her entire body.
And one thing I can say for the Japanese cast is that they actually cast a very young girl as young Robin, and it just...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it makes it, like, so much more... Like, and that girl's really good. Like, I can't even...
Heart-wrenching.
Yeah, it really is.
There's a reason I cry at this flashback just profusely.
Yeah, not the most I cried for this read-through.
No,
actually. No, it's not even... It isn't, but...
That little girl, when she does the Dereshishishi laugh, it is instant unsettling. Not, like, uncomfortable, but I start to get upset just hearing that voice actress do that.
Even, like, thinking about that just, like, gives me a lump in my throat.
Yeah.
So, we see that, like, the books are what saved Robin, even when she was abandoned by her mother. It's the world's greatest library. It's under attack now. And
then we have that scene where Robin and Olvia run by each other.
Yeah.
Also heartbreaking. Yeah, this just all makes her heart rip.
Oh, and then we get young Vice Admiral Kuzan, who's woken up on his boat.
Kuzi.
I love Kuzi. I'm a big Kuzi fan.
Oh, and it's interesting to me that Spondine wants a promotion. Promotion to what?
Well,
we could talk about that. We could talk about that in the Reverie segment.
Someone want to ask you guys. I don't know if Kuzan's like personality changed over the years, or maybe he's just annoyed because someone woke him up from his lazy
he seems
nap.
like a bigger asshole.
Like,
now,
no, he always seems more agitated. He seems way more like.
You mean the past?
Yeah, in the past, he's always just like, what? It's like what? Spit it out already. He's always yelling at his subordinates. And then the Kuzan we got to know in Davy Backfight, he's all, yo, what's going on?
He's learned to relax.
Yeah, that's something you got to learn.
That's what happened.
Yeah. I want to mention something before we go to the next chapter, and that's this color spread at 394, which I think we've mentioned.
What I was about to bring up. Yeah.
We brought up that this is one of our favorites, I think.
Yes.
And what an appropriate time for this one, too. I didn't realize where in the story it was, but that Robin is so front and center here with her future crew.
It's
and looking at ruins potentially.
I can't remember the last time I talked to this. I think when we did top 5 color spreads, but
A little while ago.
Years ago. So many great things about this color spread, but pretty much the most impressive thing is the use of light through the canopy of the trees. It is phenomenal. Another color spread I'd want to have as a poster.
Yeah, this one I would love to just hang up a giant size version frame it look like a crazy person.
Or an anime fan.
What? No. The thing is, some of these color spreads, like, my parents don't know anything about. They'll say, "What's that?" It's like, it's really beautiful looking. I'm like, that's what I podcast about.
I don't bother explaining to my parents. Like, if my dad's like, "Oh, what are you watching?" I'm like, "A thing." You're gonna forget the name of it in 5 seconds. I'm not gonna tell you.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Anyway, we find out that Robin goes to try and see if her mother's there. They have to lie because they don't want that connection, because that'll make Robin into a criminal as well, which is one of the continuingly heart-wrenching parts of this little flashback here. And I like how we get kind of differences in the townspeople. Some townspeople are douche nozzles. Some people aren't. They'll defend the archaeologists because they're the pride of the island. Later on, when Robin's trying to go to the evacuation ship, some are like, "Let her on." Others are like, "No freaking way. She's a monster," or whatever it is. Something to note, since we've talked a lot about that in this read-through, the townspeople. And so Spandine confronts Olvia. If there's anything you want to talk about.
It's more like Olvia confronts Spandine. Because she shoots at him.
I love how he overreacts.
Ooh, I've been shot.
Yeah, sir, just went through your jacket.
I imagined him making noises similar to, that old viral video of the lady who's crushing grapes for wine and falls off the platform. It's like, just I just imagine him making that noise.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
And Saul notices just how bad the situation is as he sees the warships.
I think we better call Saul.
Damn it! No, you used that joke too early. No, I'll use it later.
Okay.
But you already used it. You can't use it again.
Well, a better time is when the Buster Call is activated.
Well, now you definitely can't use it.
That's a better time to call Saul.
Anyway, all the archaeologists and Robin are corralled into the center of near the tree, and
and that's when Spandine says he wants his son to have his job when he gets shot in the jacket.
Yeah.
Sorry, I find that very funny for whatever reason.
So, I just like O'Hara's gonna be made an example of. That's what you get for researching the void in history. They only came out to do like a perfunctory search. They're not. It's like, yeah, well, we had to come at least pretend we're not pirates. Jeez,
God, how dare you? And they throw after. Did they shoot her again? No, they just threw her bloodied self, Olvia's bloodied body onto the ground.
They beat her up a little.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. There's just blood flying around, so it looked like they shot her a little, but they just thudded her down onto the ground. It's kind of crazy here because Robin's like, why would they do that to a woman there?
Oh, that poor lady.
And also heartbreaking is the Olvia. This is I can't.
Yeah, this scene's the scenes coming up with her and Robin are by far the ones I got.
Yes, but first, Clover has a hypothesis for the elders.
Well, thank you. He says, I want to talk to the 5 elders because I've come up with this idea, this hypothesis about the Void Century.
Well, and right before that, Spandine has this amazing evil face. Like he has Doflamingo veins in his face and they shadow his face. Like, oh, God, so evil.
Now, I discussed this in super depth in the article that when you're listening to it, it might be out. I'm not sure. It'll be out in the next few days or weeks. But the 5 elders are speaking to Spandine. Meanwhile, a bunch of the Cypher Pole agents, the government agents, notice the poneglyph in the basement and confirm what's going on. Saul runs in, causing mass havoc to a mass havoc situation. And the conversation here begins between the 5 elders and Clover. I don't want to go into excruciating detail again because I want to talk a little bit more about this in the Reverie segment, but we have kind of a debate as to the importance of it. The 5 elders saying, look, I know you want to build some ancient weapons. Don't do it. I mean, obviously, we learned that this is not why they are afraid of this Void Century. But Clover says, look, it's our duty to find the past. We can't cover up any of the past. It needs to be exposed.
I was surprised by how reasonable the elders sounded. Actually, they sound really disappointed in Clover that they don't want to have to do this. But Clover, as Clover says, knowledge can't be a crime. And why do the poneglyphs even exist in the first place? Who are the enemies of the poneglyphs? Yeah, it's like you know too much, man.
I actually really like that too, Ed. And the thing I enjoy about villains and storytelling in general is like, no one really ever thinks of themselves as the bad guy.
No, they're probably... I mean, we don't know if this ancient kingdom was a good kingdom or a bad kingdom. It seems from the evidence we have that the current world government is probably not that good. Because they do a lot of shitty shit.
But they clearly see themselves as the stewards of the world. Like, they do things for a purpose of maintaining an order or a balance.
I mean... I think we could probably point to our current intelligence agencies and say they do things that are questionable, but they believe are
exactly
are patriotic. I think is probably the
yes, and which can be used for ill.
Yes, and all governments do, and they do it on behalf of justice or what they believe is preserving, the greater good.
Justice, nationalism, protecting your civilians at the cost of maybe other civilians.
And it's a very murky, very, very dark gray area to step into.
So they call in the Buster Call, and they burn the library. They're burning books.
They burn the 3,000-year-old tree, which breaks my heart almost as much as
5,000.
5,000.
Even worse.
Which, I know. Why would you say that? Which breaks my heart almost as much as the Robin stuff. I'm a tree hugger. Okay, I'm sorry. And we find out about this ancient kingdom. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the Reverie section. And just when he's about to say the name, Blammo. Blam, not Blammo, I'm sorry.
From Blammo.
From Blammo Toys.
I'm going to write that in myself here. A Sharpie.
Thank you, Ed. And everyone's distraught. Clover has been shot, but very clearly not killed.
I like that rhyme.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It was an accident. I don't even remember what I just said.
Of course it was. You're white.
Good point.
I'm white, too. I can't even accidentally rap.
I can't dance.
Me neither. Anyway,
I won't say anything.
Thank you.
So we see a distraught Five Elder guy there too, which is very interesting. That they
didn't want to do it.
But they realize he's in way over his head. This is it. We gotta do this now. And I love how dramatically Spandine does the Buster Call. He whips it around. Now then, with the golden transponder snail entrusted to me by Admiral Sengoku, I shall now trigger the Buster Call.
It's interesting that it was Admiral Sengoku.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Well, he was an admiral then.
But
why not another admiral? I mean, it makes sense. We see Sengoku a little later when this mission is quote unquote completed.
But we're kind of delaying getting to the important stuff here.
I'm sorry. And that is the Buster Call itself?
No, the end of this chapter.
Do I have to go to the end of this chapter?
Yes. Well, are you my mother, Zach?
Oh my
no,
God.
I'm not your mother, but still.
Instant waterworks for me. That is, this scene always gets me.
I can't even.
One day I wanted to hold hands and walk together.
No, you're actually going to make me cry.
She studied really hard. She became an archaeologist. Just for you.
Look at that freaking crying.
All of his face, just like the denial. She has to pretend that she doesn't want to run into her daughter's arms.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. Killer.
Oh yeah, that's Robin. Even as a child,
and you sound like you're taking glee in this.
No, I'm not. I mean, I do really enjoy it, but it's because it's emotional.
Yeah,
it's very emotional.
This scene, even when I first read this, hit me in a way I did not expect to hit me. Because we know the fate of the island already. It's already been hinted at. But just that moment, you feel the weight of the consequences of this loss.
And we know that her mother probably does not make it either, because I think we would have this point. I heard about
Yeah,
that.
potentially.
And Clover's still alive and not saying the name of the ancient kingdom.
Okay, Zach, there's no reason why he has to say it.
Just to the audience, just face over and say the name of the ancient kingdom,
I've made fun of Zach before. It's like, all right, everyone, we're about to be burned alive. Did everyone get the name? Does anyone need to know the name of the kingdom before we all burn alive to death? Just want to confirm it's Habla. No. That's the country where they have candy cane trees. Blah 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 is the forgotten.
No, it's Bork.
He's not gonna say it.
Anyway, let's get
Because
back
he'd
to
get more bullets. He's not Michael Myers. He's not going to keep standing back up.
Maybe the bullet they shot him with is the can't say the name of the kingdom bullet.
It sounds like an Usopp disease.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to Robin a little bit.
Why?
Because I just thought it was impressive that she, even as a small child, gave up everything by like blurting out that all this she's an archaeologist, she studied the poneglyph, and like she just to be with her mother, she just give up like this. That's the card that she has to force Olvia to recognize her.
At this point, I didn't think that Robin really understood the ramifications of this. That's why she was just saying all this to get her mother to recognize her.
She just wants to see her freaking mom again.
Yeah.
She just didn't care anymore.
They were trying to make her escape and be safe because people didn't know that she was an archaeologist. So she's like, well, if I guess if I say that, then I can't run away.
For Shonen Jump's chapter 700 celebration, which is now 2.5 years ago, they wanted favorite panels from the series, and this page leading up to Olvia's saying, we can't give up on the future of this world. You have to live on and be that future was my pick for all of One Piece up to that point, which was 70 volumes, and I stick by that. I think this is just so important. I think it's such a great character moment for Robin and shows just how important she is. I mean, she carries the weight of not just her island, but the ancient history that we know nothing about, and all history that O'Hara had uncovered, and herself. And it's important for not just her; it's important for the series. It's just such a great moment. It just has always stuck out to me, this part. And it's also just makes me weep uncontrollably, especially when Saul carries Robin away there. While that all happens, even Clover has to cry a little bit.
Yeah, it's actually we go back and we see Saul and Olvia like when they meet on the sea. She makes him start asking the wrong questions about the world government, basically, and like, is the law the thing that is wrong?
I love this mini flashback.
Which always contrasted to me with the line from Star Wars. Well, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. There's a way to write that line and not sound like a dumbass.
Yep.
And Oda did it.
You hear that, Jorge?
I love this little mini flashback. Also, just seeing Saul the Giant on commanding his ship. It's all great.
How does he fit on that ship?
I don't know. It's a very good question. Also, there again is Kuzi yelling for no reason. And we also get a little look at Sengoku's afro for the first time, I think.
Pongoat's there.
Of course, Pongoat is immortal. Obviously,
I love the fact that they'd already decided on a Buster call before they sent anyone there. They knew what they were going to do.
Yeah, this is going to happen no matter what. And the conversation between Sengoku, it's short, but between Saul and Sengoku is very crucial to kind of understanding the differences of opinion. Sengoku is not the most hardline Marine we see in the series either. By far. We're about to see one in a couple seconds here. But
Sengoku is just kind of like, I got to do this job.
Yeah, it's like, don't make this difficult for me, Saul. That's what I got to do. I got to do what I got to do here.
And Robin must be the one to tell of O'Hara's stand against the world government, so she has to live on.
And Saul lifting up the battleship is just such a crazy spread, like a culmination here of everything, of like the emotion into this just cool, crazy moment.
And you realize now that what Robin is, allegedly getting her bounty for is what Saul did, because they covered up what Saul did, and they said that Robin did it, destroying all those ships.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I never really put those two and two together until I read it again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really thought about it. I thought they just said that she destroyed a bunch of ships.
Yeah, I forgot.
But it's like, but she's getting blamed for what Saul did.
Well, it's funny about that. Like when we initially found that out in Alabasta, I always assumed at 8 years old, Robin was a badass, and now I find out, oh, well, she is, but not for that reason.
Yeah. The extent of the Navy and world government cover-ups become more important later on in the series. So.
Also, interesting little trivia note is that we see Bragman again, which was the one from Little Garden, right? We had an SBS question about it come up here, but it's cool to see that being thrown into the water along with all the other books. I think Oda mentions in an SBS a little bit about what it's about, so check that out. It's in one of these volumes. I think it's in 44. Go ahead though, Ed, if there's more you want to talk about. So no one notices I'm weeping.
No, man, that's it's just you see how justice looks different from different points of view. So when Kuzan confronts Saul, he's talking about that he won't make fun of his position, but he's still gonna have to kill him for interfering.
Like, look, you were fine doing what you were doing before. I didn't really care. You left, whatever. I assumed you had your reasons, but now you're interrupting. I have to do a job, and you're preventing me from doing it.
Real quick, the panel where the 2-page spread of Saul picking up the Marine battleship and holding over the head, fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Better Call Saul, right?
Yeah, Better Call Saul.
Oh my God. And anyway, the Sakazuki scene, to kind of contrast, get a real first taste of this guy.
You blew up the evacuation ship.
That's really all you got to know. He'll do anything for justice. I think he basically says that.
What's very strange about Sakazuki's introduction here, there was a time I forgot he was even introduced in this flashback. It's very odd for Oda to say that later he'd become Admiral Akainu. I'm curious as to why he did that instead of just waiting to just later show Akainu and say, "Oh, formerly Vice Admiral Sakazuki."
It's a good question. I think
it's meant to show the contrast between
the admirals,
Akainu and Aokiji. Red versus blue is an easy way to sum it up.
Yeah, I mean, these two, not to go too far into it, I mean, clearly have a difference of opinion.
Do you think they clash on ideals?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll talk about that more in the Reverie.
But, we thought this flashback was getting dark. Sakazuki kills an entire ship of innocent civilians.
Yeah, so Robin would have died if she got on that ship. Like Saul had said.
So the fact that the evacuees were being dicks to her actually saved her life.
Yep.
And also, I noticed that Spondine is actually very afraid of Kuzan. He calls him Mr. Kuzan, which is very formal. Like Kuzan-san.
Well, it's his boss, I think. It's kind of weird.
He seems intimidated by him very much.
Well, even as we saw, like with a spot on getting the Buster call, I think the Admirals kind of outranked CP9.
Or at the very least, are physically much stronger.
Yeah.
So there's a reason to be a little
but then we get
verklempt.
We get Saul's final speech to Robin. Someday you'll find friends, Robin. Nobody is born and be completely alone in this world. You can find friends who will protect you.
And he slowly gets frozen.
Jeez.
So much emotion.
And we come back after, the Olvia's dying words, saying, "I have no words."
He's got a few regrets, though.
Yeah.
Wait, and then all the archaeologists went into the tree to try to save the books are about to be burned alive and crushed.
But not the books. Just
they're in the lake.
Well, they got as many books as they could. They couldn't save all the books.
And what Clover thinks, so this is history. This is the history that man has chosen. Man is so callow. I mean, there's just like a real devastating moment for humanity in the One Piece world. And Robin heads toward the shore, and they're sitting there is good old Kuzan, who just killed Saul saying, "Look, I'll protect the seed that Saul protected, and see what it grows up to. But don't get involved in anything. Just stay under the radar if you can." But she says, "Look, my mother is here," and he explains, "Look, you could die a painful death here, or you could go and save yourself." And so she goes. Yeah,
With the Dareshi.
the saddest scene ever is just in the anime, especially. And
That
just,
little girl, the actress.
I can't even. This
As
page just makes
Steve said before, and we see her little montage of her growing up in the next chapter, and all the people who betrayed her. And I was a little surprised to see again that she actually worked for Crocodile for 12 years. Like she was 16 when she joined up with him, so she worked with him for a long time.
What's also interesting about Kuzan's like last words to her, like this whole time, Robin wouldn't accept the fact that she couldn't be with the people she wanted to be. Like she wanted to be with the archaeologist, she wanted to be with her mother, she wanted to be with Saul, and these people kept telling her to go, Robin, save yourself, save yourself. But not until Kuzan made that stark choice did Robin decide to, you know what, I have to leave people in order to save them or protect myself. And that's something she's been doing all the way up until right this very moment.
when she has to let someone else do it for her.
Right.
And I like how obvious it was that Kuzan was the one who prevented the Navy from doing anything. Man, it's like, for some reason my rudder was frozen. What could it have been? Who could possibly have frozen my rudder?
Yeah, and he wouldn't have gotten away with it too if they didn't catch that picture of Robin.
Yeah. It's just heartbreaking. The grandma snitching on her. The couple.
Grandma with the creepy face.
Creepy grandma. Who's even worse in the anime.
Better than dead grandma. And just all of this is just.
I feel bad for the one couple who they seem like decent enough people. I'm like, oh, she's a good girl, but if we keep housing her, we'll be in danger. But look at this bounty. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, when you turn the page.
Look at that guy's chin. Good lord.
Maybe that's Jay Leno in a different life. But look at this bounty.
Look at this bounty. You see this bounty?
But yeah, so we're back up to the top of the.
Wait, before there's a couple things. She finds a poneglyph in this time, which is interesting. I really like that the last thing is crocodile, not only because chronologically that makes sense, but he's also after the exact same thing that Spandam's after, and that's the Pluton, and it's really interesting just to see those stories come together a little bit there. Anyway, we go back and yes, Ed, please continue.
So yeah, he's gonna make her say it. He's gonna make her say that she wants to live, and she keeps trying to argue. I'll be too much of a burden. You'll betray me. You'll cast me aside. And Spandam is just loving it. He's just reveling in it. But so Luffy, to make her say it, he makes Sniper King shoot down the flag, and yeah, that's a declaration of war right there. That's the title of this volume.
It's again one of the most iconic moments in the series.
Yeah, which means so much right now in what's going on in current politics.
Also true.
The One Piece politics, not American politics.
Well, sometimes American politics too. Oh no, also American politics actually.
Otis hit the shit, but yeah, I'm just being topical.
Oh wait, now I
yeah, it took me a minute there.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. So and Luffy makes his pledge, to bring it on, and then say you want to live. And I love the panel designs here. They're chaotic and all over the place. I don't know if you noticed.
No, yeah, that's a good call.
And yeah, just like it's supposed to kind of be chaotic and hard to follow.
Yeah,
I feel like.
it makes that scene very frantic.
Yeah.
Like you're feeling all these emotions and you're processing all these different things simultaneously.
The anime did a great job at covering that too. I think they had the very shaky camera kind of thing, and then it's the iconic moment, I want to live, finally admitting to take me with you. And Frankie, of course, sobbing. But I mean, he's doing it with the audience here, because if the flashback for some reason didn't get you, this will. And Luffy says, "Let's go," and then 50 episodes later in the anime,
Frankie is so crying.
Yeah. We then head to the confrontation as the drawbridge is lowered.
Yeah.
And Frankie, after hearing, somehow telepathically hearing this entire story.
We do get to see that Baskerville is actually 3 different people.
Yeah, I don't like the Baskervilles.
And why were they doing that?
Just because.
We're best friends.
They're best friends.
They're best friends. And Frankie takes out the plans for the Pluton, the ancient military weapon that he had inside of himself the entire time, apparently. And after showing it to them, Lucci and Kaku are a little bit taken aback there. And he explains that, look, the reason I have kept this is to have a counter weapon for Robin, who he thought was the big issue here. He thought would be the one to kind of take the world down. But now he realizes that Spandam is the kind of person he has to watch out for. So in order to save the world, he blows it up. He sets it on fire, which is another very important moment here.
Well, he's betting it all on the Straw Hat Pirates, much like characters in the future would do.
Always good to bet on the winning team.
Yep.
It's as
the underdog. We don't know if they're going to win yet.
We know, the readers, but yeah.
I love that he does it with his fresh fire, his fire breath.
And so the Frankie family and the Rocket Man all approach, and as the Rocket Man chugs along, Luffy jumps off, and they head toward Enies Lobby and Volume 42, which is the first dual cover we get since Alabasta.
And we also get to see when Frankie finds out that the Frankie family has come to rescue him.
And cries again, yes.
Yes,
he cries a lot.
Yeah, he does the crying voice.
You kind of feel bad because, Frankie's like, oh, wow, it's so nice that your crew came to save you. I can't say the same about my family. And they're like, no, we're right here, bro. Oh, man.
We go over the waterfall, and everyone's fine. A
couple of them had bloody noses.
Well, I mean, they're crazy. Anyway, Fukuro Exposition explains everything.
Oh my God, that's what I wrote.
Really?
It says Fukuro Exposition, and
I think we've been doing this podcast too long together.
Also, Fukuro's Game of Keys. Ah, fuck.
Yeah, that's all you really need to know there. The game. How do you want to go through this game of keys? I want to go by fight, which means just because otherwise we're going to be here forever. We're already going to be here forever, but I'd like to lower that forever. That's not good. So that's the rest of this is kind of easy to explain, though. We're through some of the densest parts here.
Well, until the last volume.
Every fight is awesome. Some more awesome than others.
All right, so why don't we go fight by fight? A lot of the fights get confused. I mean, for example, it's first Sniper King versus Jabra, but that obviously turns into a lot of other different little fights. But
first I think we get like Nami versus Kumadori when she manages to sneak away and like steal his key, but Chopper sort of interferes.
And we get, the Zoro Kaku fight starts first and ends last, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
do you want to just talk about that? Yeah, it's pretty. Let's just talk about that. That's kind of like the most consistently 1 versus 1 fight.
It's like some kind of zoo here.
That reveal of Kaku's devil fruit being the giraffe fruit is fucking priceless.
A lot of people thought it was going to be like a monkey, like a flying monkey.
Yeah, because it was a banana devil fruit.
Yeah. Even better, though, it was a giraffe. Oh, man.
I like
giraffes.
I love giraffes, too.
Do you know who loves giraffes? Kaku loves giraffes.
Yes, he does.
What's even better
are awesome.
What's even better are Jabra's reactions. And just how much of a kick he gets out of it is
and it's also the reason why Sniper King ends up like handcuffing him and Zoro together because they're laughing at Kaku so much.
That's hilarious.
And his attack that splits the tower, and he does that a couple of times actually. The first time when they
Sky Slicer.
Yeah, Sky Slicer.
Yeah, Kaku, when he does his half human, half beast form, it just looks awesome. It's a rectangular giraffe.
Cube, yeah.
It's
yeah,
great.
and there's the cube one.
He does the cube later.
Yeah.
And I also want to mention, sorry, real quick, I just wanted to mention Jabra's wolf design too. When he's half beast, he looks very Tex Avery-ish. Like that snout, it's very cartoony.
It is. Yeah.
Kaku has kind of the same kind of
Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be either.
I don't know. I'll let you guys decide.
Yeah,
You
that's
guys are
more you
artists.
guys.
Oh man, but we also have Sanji versus Khalifa, which ends quickly.
Yeah, there's not much to say there.
She kicks him right in the beanbag.
Steve, do you want to talk about this?
This is. I was going back reading the Sea Train stuff. I remembered, wow, Sanji was such like an MVP in this arc. He really carried the ball, and he was in so many fights.
Yep.
And then this is the beginning of the downfall of Sanji.
No.
Sanji goes through like a 6-year nerfing.
Oh God! And I thought this was such an interesting concept. Sanji has to fight a woman. He can't fight women. It's against his code.
Oops.
How is he gonna get out of this one? He pretty much
Doesn't.
just lets his ass get kicked, and then Nami takes over.
I like how
was-
he they do like the cups of tea. He's like, would you like to have some tea? He's like, I can't be having tea. Well, you've already had 3 cups, sir.
Well, the one thing I do want to say is I like when Usopp gets beaten up and he comes in to kind of save the day and fight Jabra. He's like, look, we all have our weaknesses. We have to recognize those weaknesses. I thought that was the best way to kind of explain that away, though I don't completely forgive it. I think that was the correct thing. Yeah, that's the correct way to explain it. Look, I'm never going to get over the fact that I am a horny, crazy person.
One thing, and there's also one thing that goes like all the way through to the end of like the next volume, where Spondum and Robin's journey through the underground, as he just continues to taunt her and abuse her and throw her downstairs and just like mess with her. And I love how Lucci is like defying Spondum, kind of like, that girl and her cat were following us. They probably showed him the way. He's like, why wouldn't you say something? He's like, oh, you didn't tell me, you didn't give me an order to. Come on, man. It's like Lucci just wants to fight him. He wants to fight Luffy so bad. He wants to fight him one-on-one. And I love the combat between at one point, I think in this volume, we get like 8 pages of textless combat between Luffy and Lucci. Yeah. And I love that so much. It's my favorite martial arts fight, I think, in One Piece. Straight martial arts.
Like what Lucci said earlier, all they want is blood. So of course he just wants to fight. He could give a crap about anything else.
He cares about politics. Yeah. He just cares about power. Like when we get the story of like young Rob Lucci, we'll talk about that later.
It's crazy how long this Lucci fight lasts. It goes from what are we at, 41 through the end of 44. It's kind of nuts. So we'll go back to that. The next big fight though is Frankie and Fukuro. I want to talk about.
So good. I love this fight so much.
Me too.
Like the taunting with like we had a weak punch and your punch is like you panties like. What?
Yeah,
screw you.
And the ultimate setup of that is Oda's king of the one-liners when he does finally get coal in his belly and then punches Fukuro. First he tells him to put up his guard, and then he concedes like, "Oh yeah, you're right. Those punches I gave you before were weak."
The Frankie and Chopper comedy duo with vegetable. I love in the Japanese version the way he says vegetable punch. Go
veggie punch. Fresh is awesome.
The tea, jeez.
It's a great gag. I do love
Chopper are an amazing comedy duo.
When he gets the cola, I also love these. You zoom back at Enies Lobby and you get the lightning cracking down as he says "super." It's just this super dramatic reveal of him regaining his ability.
What about this? You guys think about this color spread with the Mastodon? Like the caveman color spread?
Oh, for the 400th chapter? Yeah.
401, yeah. I love that one.
It's that's a
Mastodon is just freaky.
I thought you were going to talk about the Chopper Man one in 405.
A lot of color spreads.
There are a lot. Yeah. That's a lot more than we get today. We don't get.
I love Caveman One Piece.
I like One Piece in different eras. It's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's where this Fukuro fight goes is kind of nuts.
In the air.
Yeah, and the water.
We get Frankie's homing missiles, which aren't really.
It's him running around shooting him. Yeah.
No, the missile launchers are in his shoulders.
He has to
and
dislocate them.
And then the homing device is just him chasing after the target.
But we also get the reveal here that Frankie is Battle Frankie 36.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Mm-hmm. I love. It's a ridiculous fight, and I love how Frankie kind of solves it by, as Fukuro tries to save himself, he gets on his leg and then manages to centaur him and throw him into the ground. It's
really he stops the momentum and blasts him in the face.
It's a really kinetic and cool fight.
Fukuro has the most ridiculous expressions, especially when he hides and he's like, "Oh, I'm like an owl. I'll swoop down. You won't even know it." And Chopper punches him. He's like, "Oh, he's just hiding over here." And the face he makes. He makes this owl face, like he has a beak.
That was perfect.
It's just another great design by Oda. It's so freaking funny. This is I think I'd say Frankie versus Fukuro is one of my favorite One Piece fights. Hands down.
Yeah, it's one of my tops.
Mm-hmm. I also they're all supposed to be animals, even the ones that aren't animals.
Yeah.
So that was an especially fun little...
Because when Kumadori is fighting Chopper, he alludes to being a lion.
The Kumadori, let's talk about that. That's a much more intense fight.
Yeah. Because we have to push Chopper to the limit so that he's willing to do his 3 rumble balls, which turns him into a monster.
Yeah, it's also great because this is the reveal why Chopper can't eat more than 1 devil's fruit. You always figure, why is he just limiting himself to 1 at a time every 3 minutes, for 3 minutes?
This was a great reveal. This was, I think, as good as the Gear 2 reveal. I was shocked about it, and I love the incorporation. Even
I fully agree with that.
Seeing Correa for some reason with Chopper just makes me cry almost immediately. I'll talk about that when we get to volume 45 a little more. But it's such a great. I love how it's just brought in there, and I think this kind of thing works a lot more when you're marathoning. Because you're like, oh yeah, this just happened. This makes sense. I could see this in here. Although Chopper looks completely different. I hate to tell you. But yeah, this is what a cool spread when you finally see him there. Monster Chopper. I mean, what did you guys think of this reveal?
We first... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, when we first got here, around the same time, the PlayStation video game Shadow Colossus came out. I remember everyone making those comparisons.
It's nuts, yeah.
It's very similar.
I always associate it with the anime and the way his howl or his roar works in the anime, where it sort of finishes off with a wolf's howl.
Mm. I love the sound. I love that sound effect.
Yeah, and no, it's with Frankie where the sky turns super green and weird, but that.
I also want to mention, I love how when the fight eventually does end here, he just throws him across Enies Lobby like a rag doll.
Yeah. Kumadori's powers are pretty amazing. He does that life return. He has his hermit training, so he's able to control his body to the extent where he does the life return. He's controlling his hair. He turns his hair into a finger pistol. It's quite the range of powers he has, and also his verbosity is impressive.
Yeah.
He just doesn't stop talking.
So we have all but one of the keys, and that is, and we need to get Sniper King off of Zoro, which we didn't mention because it's annoying.
Well, it's also Zoro does propose cutting off hands.
There's a lot of jokes.
Usopp is we're not stuffed animals.
Anyway, so let's talk about the Khalifa Nami fight. What did you guys think of the fight?
I think it's the beginning of more reoccurring fan service in the series.
Yeah.
I don't think it was badly done.
I'm not saying this was a dark day in One Piece. But I remember when this chapter came out and oh man, she's naked. Yeah.
Well, I think Oda did a good job of making Khalifa funnier than I thought she could be.
Yeah, she's very
the ditziness of she can transform into a monster.
Yeah.
And Nami just calling her an idiot.
Or it sounds like you're some kind of bubble person who ate the bubble fruit. It's no.
She gets into her I know Kung Fu pose.
Interspersed through this is the Lucci-Luffy fight, which gets, as Ed mentioned it already, a super intense martial arts fight. And then Nami gets turned all bubbly, and Chopper, as you said, runs in the middle. And I think Frankie runs in the middle here too, and Sanji gets hit with the bath, and things get a little more chaotic as we head into the final series of fights. And yes, there are more fights after this. I do like how Nami defeats Khalifa, basically. Look, I'm a meteorologist, and as we all know, meteorologists are never wrong. Navigators, I'm sorry. And the whole Thunderlance tempo thing is, and the Mirage tempo. And
yeah, I definitely like Nami's improved climate tack. Perfect climate tack.
Now it's no longer the party trick climate tack.
I like the party tricks, though.
I know you like I don't.
The party tricks are fun, but it's a gag. You can only see it once.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. You don't want to. Seeing a party trick more than once just ruins the fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, eventually, the handcuffs come off and the fight begins in earnest.
Yeah.
Which is long overdue. We talked a little bit about the Zoro Kaku one. I want to talk about Ashura and kind of the end of this fight. If you guys have anything to say.
What about Sanji Jabber?
But first, Zach, Spondum calls the Buster Call at this point. Before we get the end of
okay. I was just going to go individually. Yeah.
Jabra, Sanji, and Kaku Zoro, but he's like, hey, Spandam, wrong snail. Oops.
Fucking clumsy idiot.
Yeah, and Vice Admiral John Giant is there at Navy headquarters receiving the You just send them out. Send the 5 vice admirals from headquarters. It's so close. It's 30 minutes away.
Yeah, and we see the gates of justice actually opening in there too.
And Spondon doesn't know that everyone can hear him on the island. He's like, well, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs first. These soldiers' lives are worth nothing to me. All that matters is my promotion. Again, what promotion are you looking for? You're already the head of the secret organization.
Well, again, we'll talk about that in the Reverie segment.
I may not be able to stay on for that, but we'll see.
Well, let's hope. So we have the Three Musketeers color spread too. I want to mention that because I love that one.
But my favorite gag with Spondum is my name is Straw Hat Luffy. No one believes you.
That's all of it.
I forgot about that.
That is one of my favorite gags with Spondum.
Okay, so we should probably first talk about the Sanji Jabra fight because we get the introduction of the Diablo Jambra. Jambe, whatever it's called.
Next to, I think, the Frankie Fukuru, this might be my favorite fight of this Enies Lobby series.
It's a pretty good.
Just
Sanji
to say,
fight.
we are now in volume 43. So if you want to talk about the cover for that,
yeah. Frankie's on it. I remember being psyched. I'm like, Frankie with the straw hats.
It's nice. It's cool to see the opposing covers of 42 and 43.
And just non One Piece, but the fart joke as the volume comments. This is one of my favorite volume comments of all time. It's I have to fart, so I'll make a noise, but I made a noise. Now everyone's quiet, and then I fart. Sorry. Every time I just laugh very, very hard.
That silence was well deserved.
I just want to mention with the cover, I like the we had the CP9 last time, we had the Straw Hats, and I was a huge Frankie fan when these were coming out. So just to see him on covers, I was like, yeah, join the crew.
So Frankie, speaking of Frankie, manages to make it all the way to where the fight with Luffy and not Kaku, Luffy and Lucci is going on. And then we get the end of the Zoro fight here.
Oh, that's right. The first chapter of this volume is where we get 8 pages of amazing textless combat between Lucci and Luffy. So good.
So, yeah, thoughts on the end of the Zoro fight? Since that happens next.
And of course I love Giraffe Kaku, so it was really fun to watch. Some awesome panels. One of my favorites is when Kaku's just thrashing about his long neck. It's drawn so well. Oh,
you know what's funny about that, though? That's how giraffes actually fight each other in the wild. They hit each other with they have hollow heads. Well, not hollow, but they have very. That's how they attack each other. They hit each other with their heads, like waving their necks all around. It's crazy. We did mention that Frankie has to knock Chopper into the ocean in order. That's the only way to keep him alive, because otherwise this monster form is going to kill him.
Yeah, that was way back. Yeah.
Well, no, that happens in this volume.
Yeah, in this volume, but way back in this volume. From where I am at the moment.
Then at the end of this, Zoro tells Kaku he's fired from Polly.
and Kaku's like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, Kaku takes it kind of...
And people are like, oh, they kind of had a conversation after they finished fighting. He still might join.
Yeah, maybe he'll join.
It's still good. It's still good.
The Ashura panel's awesome just because I love the way Zoro's drawn. I love the fists. Well, not so much fists. I just love the hands. Yeah. I love the jawline and the mouth.
Mouths, plural.
Mouths. Or just, the mouth of Zoro.
I always thought Ashura was a little ridiculous. I never really got it.
I think it's supposed to be an illusion. He hasn't actually realized.
I know that.
I have a theory behind that.
But he's able to project his blade into mist and attack from all directions, basically. That's the mist.
I don't think it's an illusion per se. I think it's literally taking a cue from Dragon Ball. Zoro's moving his head and his hands so quickly it looks like they're solid forms.
Maybe.
I don't know.
That's when it's like a 36-pound phoenix, which projecting his attacks so small, he's moving so fast, and like he's projecting all these little blades, and it seems like a mist, maybe.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Robin decides to kind of finally not fight back, but try and hold her ground as she literally chomps on the side of the bridge that Spandam is taking her on to kill some time while let everyone get over there.
I just want to mention before we get too far away from it, all the funny names that Nami calls Usopp throughout this, like you snipe, nose sop. We're not even at Sniper King anymore. We're not even the same syllables. We gotta get the gags in there. Gotta get the gags.
We start getting into like the real Luffy Lucci fighting here, and
one more thing. Sorry.
Yes.
One-liners. Sanji, he says, "God makes the food, but the devil makes the spice."
Thank you.
Yes,
that one's too good.
And also, super leave it to Frankie.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got more of the Luffy Lucci fight, and then one of the more iconic moments is Usopp didn't really get a full fight, and that's because his fight is sniping the hell out of Spandam from the other side of the from the Tower of Law all the way to the Bridge of Trepidation or whatever the hell it's called.
How great is the scene where we reveal that and Soke King's pointing into the air?
What a great panel!
See, that's the confusing thing. That's the namesake of the volume.
Yeah.
You know, was it called Legend of a Hero? The hero is Soga King. It's not.
Yeah.
It's
not it's different. Spadam's talking about how much he's going to be a hero after he turns Robin in the entire time.
Yes.
So he thinks he's the hero in that sense, and that's why the chapter's called Legend of the Hero, because the true hero is Soga King.
This is where Sniper King's bounty poster comes from.
Right. Something else it's a really small art detail in the panel where Sniper King's revealed is that if Sniper King's mask wasn't broken by Jabra, that light that's shining through wouldn't be there.
Huh.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I never realized that.
Mm-hmm.
So he also delivers all the keys. And Frankie's there to also protect Robin, and that ends Volume 43. And we get into Volume 44, also known as the Luffy Lucci fight volume, because that is 90% of it.
Yeah, the last 10% is what gets me, though.
It's a thick volume, too.
Yeah,
I read that this morning, like right after I woke up, and I must have been like in an emotionally vulnerable state. So I cried even more than usual when I read that this time.
To start off, though, Usopp, we'll get to that at the end. Usopp still on the top of the Law of Justice, the Tower of Law, sorry. The Law of Justice, did I say?
Yeah.
While it explodes.
I went in the bathroom, I laid a log of justice.
But Usopp manages to jump off and is fine, but no, he's not really fine.
That's a great moment in the anime actually, where they do the voice falling from very high distance, like you call as he gets closer to the ground. Anyway,
Doppler effect.
Yeah.
And then the fighting between Luffy and Lucci hits an extreme as the Buster Call Vice Admirals come.
Then things get kicked. Then things get knocked into third gear.
Yeah, we see 5 fucking badass admirals and their Mexican armadas.
Battle
and
grannies are coming, and they're coming strong. What?
I don't think they get named here, but it's Momonga, Onigumo, Doberman, Yamakaji, and Steve's favorite.
Steve's favorite?
Strawberry.
Yeah, Zach's favorite. Strawberry!
It's my favorite,
He's a
Ed.
really good character.
Yeah, they don't get named until way later. I think in the
a couple of them do. Onigumo gets mentioned. I think Doberman does as well by his men. But sure. Onigumo's like the really evil guy where he's like, "Are you hesitating shooting on that ship where they are? Oh, I'll kill you too."
Yeah, Onigumo and Sakazuki seem to share a lot in common, which I find interesting. But yeah, we get that's what a great color spread. Not a color spread, 2-page spread. I love that. And so the firing commences, and Luffy and Lucci are forced to go to higher ground as Lucci floods the underground.
So evil, man.
Just so his friends get drowned, and they won't be fine after that. And then things get kicked into third gear.
As old ladies who are mermaids show up.
Oh, this really works perfectly, doesn't it?
Old ladies and mermaids are and they're coming too.
They're coming hard.
There's so many great gags for this reveal that won't even come for another 2 arcs.
It's true, and we get a Doberman, right? Revealing the history behind Lucci and his dog.
And I really appreciate that they turned that into an entire episode of the anime. Which, as far as like stretching things out, expanding on things like that is stuff I can appreciate.
We're completely skipping over the most important part of that chapter. What Gear 3 actually is.
Oh yeah,
a bone balloon.
Of Luffy blowing up his body parts the size of giants.
I remember reading that for the first time because that was right after I caught up to the manga in the Zoro versus Kaku fight, and I got that was one of the first new chapters I got to read on a weekly basis, and just the giant fist coming out of the tower.
Fucking love that panel.
It's amazing.
Yeah, my mind got blown. I remember working just screaming and jumping around the office oh my god.
Wish I was there to see that.
You would not be friends with me.
One of the most oh my god moments, though, is Luffy crushing that battleship with a giant axe, as Lucci is just countering by turning into an actual leopard and biting him in the shoulder.
It's really the only time we see him as a full
yeah, it's true. But it's a really cool moment. Nice kitty. But
Lucci can cut down ships too with his
Victory Bird.
Yeah.
Tempest Kick Victory Bird.
Yeah. I want to mention that there is so many variations, especially of the Storm Leg, for each of the characters.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Jabra has his wolf version. Kaku's is the Sky Slicer. Anyway, and
I even loved how Bluno would use the iron body for offensive moves. Yeah,
that wheel kick he did.
Yeah.
And so Luffy's third gear comes with a cost, and that cost is that he becomes adorable. I'm sorry, he becomes tiny and has no defensive capabilities.
Yeah. We didn't really talk about that first one where he goes through the gates, the big metal door with Chimney and Gonbei.
I always thought that was going to be Gear 3.
Was it that he just turns tiny?
Yeah, I figured he'd turn tiny and all his powers compact into his tiny body.
That's a very Dragon Ball thing. That's like King
that is King Piccolo, yeah.
King Piccolo, yeah. And we also get a small little fight between Frankie and Funkfried and Spandam, wherein Frankie throws Funkfried onto Spandam.
So good.
Spandam's face is so swollen.
Poor Funkfried. I've always felt bad for Funkfried.
Frankie intimidates Funkfried, actually, which I found really funny.
I always wonder, this feels like a waste of the elephant fruit. I feel like that could have been used better.
You're preaching to the choir here, Zach.
But it's also the kind of thing that Spondon would do if he got access to an awesome fruit like that. He would totally give it to his sword because that's the kind of guy he is.
Yeah, he could have eaten it.
That's a good point. That would have made for a very interesting fight there.
Although they mentioned later on with Dr. Vegapunk in it's only in next volume, so I can just talk about it. Yeah. Like the fact, like that was his project for the last year, was getting the devil fruit power to go into an inanimate object. So maybe it was Vegapunk's project, and somehow Spondon got it. I don't know.
Oh, so like he already infused the fruit with the sword, and Spondon just got a hold of it.
Yeah, he gave the fruit to the sword, and maybe Spondon was just like raiding the laboratory.
Yeah. So when Lucci discovers that Luffy's become miniaturized, he kind of returns to a smaller state and starts kicking his ass as much as possible. And right before,
I love that. I do love that little punch he gives when he's holding him by his neck. When Lucci's holding him by his neck, he's like, and Lucci is so offended by that too. He just like tosses him.
He's super. I thought that was hilarious how offended he is.
Yeah.
But Lucci's actually not doing very well either, and so Luffy is able to come back to his full self. And then we get the reveal about Kokoro. Yep. I like this reveal. It's
Sanji's dreams are dead.
Everyone's dreams are dead.
Especially his, though.
Especially his. And we go back to, well, Yowza, she pulls them all up. I'm sorry, that's Frankie's reaction to that.
I love how Frankie yells at Kokoro to put on pants.
Double standards.
She yells at him to put on pants back during the flashback.
No, I know. It's a good gag.
But we find out that mermaid tailfins split at age 30 and they can live on the land.
Also important. Also disturbing in this case. And
Sanji misses the chance to like hug Glomp Robin and Chopper, and he goes flying into the mast of the ship.
and after that, Chopper somehow re-loses his ability to move. And then huge explosions rattle the Frankie family, who was trying to escape out the front, which was probably a bad idea with the giants.
That sequence was scary.
Yeah, where Luffy decides to gear 2 until he dies, basically, is the end of that chapter 424.
And the fight rages on and rages on and rages on, and we find out that there were no survivors from the Frankie family, even though we soon find out that that's not the case, which shouldn't be a big surprise. And so only one target remains, and that is the bridge. And so the Buster Call heads into overtime and Luffy and Lucci fight. And
we get the 6 King pistol, like the basically like a big reject dial.
It's a beautiful fight.
And he tries to do it, and like when he catches Luffy with his tail
between his legs.
No, he catches him with his tail to prevent him from evading this. Take me seriously, damn it.
No. I refuse.
That's a little later.
Oh, we get the captains who come to attack the bridge now. So
we also find out this is the first time Enies Lobby in 800 years, which seems like an important amount of years, has been attacked. So since the Void Century, which I think is an interesting note.
Yeah. Rust power. Yeah. Rust power.
Oh yeah, we get the rust power.
Ibashiri's dead.
And we get all these captains. I love this spread showing all of the elite 200 captains and lieutenants.
I like how I think Usopp points out that they're all potentially as strong as Smoker.
Let's talk about Usopp's speech to Luffy.
Well, we should talk about the fact that Zoro loses a sword here, because that's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We also get a berry guy that Frankie punches.
Very good.
Very good. Talk about the speech.
Yeah, and Luffy's like, Usopp's here? When did he get here? So he draws his attention. He says, if you're gonna beat him, you gotta stand up and do it. You're not dead yet. This isn't the afterlife. We're not even close to the end. We all have to go back together. And he reminds Luffy of his purpose, to overcome and do that the third or fourth gear second to finally take out Lucci, and he does the jet Gatling.
Well, what's amazing is Luffy still gets his ass handed to him a few times before he could actually get up again. And you get the whole flashback, and you know it's going to end when you get these. All arcs end like this. And you see everything that's past and everything that he's fighting for here. and he gatlings the hell out of him. And it's essentially a panel is the whole page, and it deserves it. And that punching continues onto the next page too, and he declares that they're going to go back together. But first, he has to get up.
Yeah. Even in the next panel after Usopp finishes his speech, he's already got his blackboard out. He's scratching with the fingernails.
He's doing his thing.
Usopp noise.
And he's out of the Sniper King mask here too. For this
Usopp hears a distant voice. I don't know what that. What's that noise, man?
I don't know. What is it? Do you hear it? No, I don't hear anything.
That's the Frankie family. No, it's something else.
They're fine too, but we find out that the Mary is still there, and only the Straw Hats. Sorry to ruin it for you. And the Straw Hats are the only ones who seem to be able to hear it, and they roll down into the ocean and jump on the Mary and head off into the sunset.
Because it takes me
also, Sanji closed the doors on the Gates of Justice secretly at some point during this.
Well, all the Straw Hats contribute to this escape, including Frankie.
Yeah. It's and Robin, who spammed him one extra time for good measure.
Yeah. Oh, he deserved all of it.
God, yeah.
Break his back, make him humble.
He's been pretty broken. So Frankie Kuda vents the ship.
After Nami navigates through the whirlpools.
Meanwhile, the Frankie family heads off on the train, which I thought left with a bunch of Marines, but I guess didn't. The Puffing Tom and...
the Buster Call ships picked them up, the Marines.
Oh, you're right. And Aokiji declares this an utter defeat, and the Straw Hats declare this an utter victory, pulling victories from the jaws of defeat.
Actually, when Spandam lies about Aokiji's orders, he's like, kill her, come on.
Oh, that was a marathon. But we're not done yet, because we have one of the most emotionally taxing parts.
Okay. Before we get into that, then I just want to mention one of my favorite gags from the escape is when Zoro and Sanji catch 3 cannonballs with Luffy, and then everyone makes the kind of oops face.
Go Team Venture.
Yes.
Yeah.
The victory, yeah. And so we get Iceberg and his giant Gali La ship, which is a really cool looking ship. And when the Mary sees that ship, breaks apart. This is as far as the ship could go. And we find out that Iceberg was the one that repaired it after being asked by the Mary herself to repair it.
Where's Usopp? He went ahead in a small boat.
I forgot this bit because it's hilarious just watching Luffy, Chopper give Luffy a ride on his shoulders. Hysterical. Mecha Chiba.
I forgot about that too. Why is Chopper the one doing that? He is the most injured next to Luffy.
No, Luffy's tired, man.
No, I know Luffy is, but Chopper is...
it goes on for a couple pages.
It does.
It's hilarious.
I never really noticed
that.
I
didn't either.
I don't remember that, yeah.
And also the fact, that they're very oblivious as to the Sniper King Usopp connection. So what did you guys think of the whole Mary thing?
It proved that Iceberg was right all along. That you have to know when to say goodbye.
You have to know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
Oh my God.
We made that joke already last week, I know.
It's great to know that sometimes there are bittersweet endings in One Piece, and the basic way to summarize this scene, I've heard a lot of people say it: One Piece, you'll cry for a boat. I cried.
No, me too. I don't know if I cried the first time, but I've cried every time since.
The anime makes certain that you will cry.
Yes, the anime does do it significantly more.
I was surprised how split the opinions were about that song, though.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
As an ending song, I love it. But Mary gives a touching final monologue to the crew.
Yeah.
She was just happy that they cared about her. And I think Zoro and Sanji are the only ones who don't cry.
So, Ed, did you cry more over that or Robin's flashback this time?
Oh, this.
Okay.
Not even close.
No, for me, it's usually the opposite. But
isn't that crazy?
No, it is not for me. Like just the part with Mary always just got me more.
All right, we got to go into volume 45 and finish it in a relatively quick amount of time. And the 45 is just packed with reveals. Now, I want to save a lot of these for the Reverie segment because a lot of it leads into other things. So we'll be a little bit quick with it. But don't worry, we'll get back.
You want me to help you with the pace?
Yeah, please.
I can start you off. Yeah. This one. Okay, they're back at Water 7. Frankie talks about what he spent the money he stole from the Straw Hats on. It's wood from an Adam tree. It's kind of a big deal.
Also, Iceberg said he's going to make the island float, which I thought is very important as well. And the tangerine trees are all right, everyone. Stop worrying.
Yes, everything that was on the ship was okay. That was in the hotel room was okay.
Luffy could eat in his sleep.
No, not yet. Damn it, man, let me build to it. Frankie agrees to build them a ship from the wood he bought. Navy shows up. Uh-oh. Hold on. Are these guys look familiar? And it's Kobe and Helmeppo being led by Garp. Oh no, they're going to bring in Luffy, Kobe's old friend. But don't worry, he's not, because Luffy is also Garp's grandson, because Garp is
Garp.
Luffy's old friend, otherwise known as his grandpa. No, sorry. This was huge.
The name of the chapter is called Jack in the Box, just to give you... Yeah. We did a whole recap on this chapter way back, because this was like... There's just so much to talk about with this chapter.
What I specifically loved about this reveal, that if you're more familiar with like Oda's external writings, like Wanted and One Piece, he hid his face for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like the second he took off that dog helmet, I was like, no fucking way.
In one of the versions of Romance Dawn, if you didn't know, Luffy got his straw hat from his grandfather, who used to be a pirate, who was Garp. Same design, same scar.
Face,
That's why Oda hid the design.
Yeah, and if you were really paying attention, you'd recognize the mouth, but I don't think anyone put two together.
No, I never. I know Viz had shown some images of Garp from that Romance Dawn, and I never would have thought.
They
I hadn't seen that Romance Dawn.
He's the guy who cornered Roger multiple times.
He was basically the smoker to Roger as Smoker is to Luffy.
How about this, guys? Yeah. Kobe's back. And the last time Kobe was
he's in Pog form now.
He's back in Pog form. And the last time I was on the read-through was when Kobe was introduced and he left the story. Damn, what a growth spurt.
Yeah, I assume you haven't read anything in between. And
nobody remembers Helmeppo.
With good reason. Also,
such a jerk.
Michael and Hoikel are there.
Michael, that was great.
From the back streets.
We get the reveal of the 4 emperors. We'll talk about that later.
And Shanks is one of them.
That's one of the big things there. And Whitebeard, who we've seen at this point, is obviously one. He's the strongest pirate in the world.
I heard you met your father, Luffy.
What?
I have a father?
What's a father?
I love that reaction, because that just goes to show what kind of guy Luffy is.
I love the fact that Garp is picking his nose while he's talking about it. Monkey D. Dragon, the revolutionary.
The world's worst criminal.
What?
And the guy we saw in Logtown.
I don't know if I've reacted.
Unnecessary reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I've reacted to a chapter like this.
No.
Since. I mean,
really not much.
Yeah,
hell, I thought Oda was throwing us a bone just by revealing Garp was Luffy's grandfather. And I'm like, oh wait, the guy from Logtown is his dad,
and he's the world's greatest criminal.
And he's a revolutionary. What's a revolutionary? Wait, we saw him earlier in Drum Island.
He looks nothing like Luffy.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Garp looks a lot more like Luffy than.
I like how Garp of the panel with these slaps his head. Is like, whoops, I said a little more than I should have. Garp is great. Right off the bat, he's hilarious. Nami in a bikini. Rawr.
Hey, shut up. Can't you see I'm wiretapping?
That's such a great line.
And we learn about Vegapunk and all of his technological new world, which is huge. Again, we'll probably talk a lot about this in the next segment.
It's really awesome to see Luffy interact with Kobe again. And then again, this is years and years between Kobe was last seen in the manga and these chapters coming out. But man, I don't want to start debating the timeline of how much time has passed since Luffy last saw Kobe.
Well, it's been within a year.
Well, I think it's probably been the amount of time we've been reading it. And in all honesty, that might actually be around the amount of time.
That's a hell of a growth spurt and a hell of a nose job.
Well, they've been doing intense training. But also, we also get Robin meeting Aokiji again after they be back.
I love that little scene.
Aokiji, don't pull a Zach.
What did I say?
Aokiji.
Aokiji. Yeah.
Aokiji.
Hey, yo.
Hey, yo.
It's cool to see, Kuzan kind of saying like, hey, yep, looks like.
Well, this is great because he's like, you were wandering on your own. I thought you were going to be destructive, but it looks like you have a path, and let's see if what Saul protected is actually going to do something good with herself. Kind of like a father kind of figure.
And Kuzan Kuzan or Aokiji even reveals like, that big guy, Jaguar D. Saul, that guy I fought in Ohara, that I killed. He was a close friend of mine.
You kind of figured that because the way they talk to each other. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a...
I don't know. I felt like from the flashback, I felt like they were just comrades. So I felt
I think
kind of a big bombshell.
For anyone who reads Chapter 0, I don't know if this is... technically happens before this. I don't know how to treat it. There's a brief panel where they're just like conversing and they look like they're friends. That's all I had to say about that.
Yeah.
And then we head to Marijoa, and we see briefly see the five elders talking about the fact that Shanks and Newgate, Whitebeard, have finally met. And this is really crazy because we were talking about this in the first Skypiea episode, 4 episodes of this podcast ago. And that was volume 25, and we're in volume 45. This is coming back full circle. Whitebeard, and that's how long it takes 20 volumes to travel to each other in the New World, for those who are wondering. So Shanks meets Marco and Jozu first, and we see the first mention of something called hockey, which again we'll talk about a little later. And the meeting between Shanks and Whitebeard is big and important, and we find out that Shanks was an apprentice on Roger's ship.
Jesus.
And that Buggy was, for some reason, also an apprentice on Roger's ship.
This is why we tend to love these.
This is one of my favorite volumes.
It's also where Whitebeard's new flag first appears, I think.
Yes,
yes, for sure.
Yeah. That's why we love these transitional One Piece arcs so much. There's so many bombshells, and we knew Shanks and Buggy used to be on a pirate ship together. Who would have freaking guessed it was the king of the pirates?
And they had a lot of adventures, including, however, Shanks got his scar thereafter.
Blackbeard.
From Blackbeard. Who was on Whitebeard's crew, as we know.
Mm-hmm. And I think just showing like the connection we as an audience have with Shanks as to how important this all is and what he did for Luffy, kind of reminding you. It's really crazy to think about. And just then they clash because he's like, stop Ace from doing this. And we see at the end of this why he warns Whitebeard about this. I mean, he's been trying to do it since Rockstar appeared back in volume 24 or 5.
Yeah.
Who?
Exactly, yes. And they literally split the heavens, the clouds and the heavens themselves.
Love that.
They're pretty powerful.
Panel. Love it.
It's insane. Insane.
So, anyway, Iceberg and his top galley law guys now, Polly, Tilestone, and Lulu, help out Frankie build the ship. Oh, hey, new bounties for every Straw Hat, including Frankie.
And kind of Chopper.
Chopper, they just thought he was a pet. Sanji doesn't get a picture, gets a terrible artist rendition. It is a running gag.
He responds with wingdings. He does.
But Frankie also has a bounty, and that encourages the Frankie family to plead to the Straw Hats, let him join your crew.
Or take him with you.
Yeah, take him with you. He used to be the son of a pirate, too.
They're all ready. The ship's all ready. They go down to see the ship. We don't get the name right away here. And it looks huge and so cool. And whoa.
So much bigger than the Going Merry.
And it's what kind of ship is it again? It is a...
Cargo?
No.
Sloop.
No, that's the name of the sail. It's a brigantine.
Oh.
Which if you look up, a lot of the ships in like the 18th, 19th century were that kind of ship. I mean, they did not look like this ship because there was no giant sunflower lion. But you could see where it's a really different looking ship. Obviously, it's Oda we're talking about here. It doesn't look like that typical pirate ship. It looks like the Straw Hat ship. And then we get a chase through the street with underwear.
The only way we're going to get Frankie to join the crew is if we steal his underwear.
But look, a man is naked his entire life. May he be like a lion and stand against the crashing waves.
Wow, how could Luffy think to ever conquer a guy like that?
And so Robin decides to grab his balls.
Lucky fucking bastard.
No,
Robin.
it's if you're into that kind of thing. Crushed like tangerines or plums or whatever it may be.
I love. Hey, Robin, I want him to stay a man when he joins us. Don't break it off.
I love all of Luffy's facial expressions here. They look like something out of Calvin and Hobbes, just like the grossed out look. I love it. And we get a little flashback with what Frankie's real dream is. Not only does he want to build the ship of dreams, he wants to ride on it and take it and take care of it.
Yeah, in a way, it's just trying to outdo Tom.
Yeah, and Iceberg and Tom have that heart-to-heart, and it's like, look, you gotta forgive yourself. We all forgive you. Now you can, in a heartbreaking moment.
Frankie, it's not your fault.
And he starts, as we mentioned earlier, the fake crying, which is real crying because of his balls not being grabbed here. Like grapes, crushed like grapes.
Well, he's crying, but he starts like, it's so painful. Nika Robin grabbing, my jewels.
Robin's not doing it.
Robin says, like, I stopped doing that. Like,
one little bit with that that the anime did really well. Every time the Square Sisters like crush like grapes, they cut to like the voice actor does. Frankie's like, "Ow, grapes!"
It's like, come on, before you said tangerines, don't keep making them smaller. It's a good bit that they added in.
Yeah.
And we get to see kind of where Zambai and the twins and all of them came from, and it tugs on the emotional heartstrings a little bit. And we find, what he did.
See the formation of the Frankie family.
And Frankie finally does it. He gets his pants back after realizing that the Navy is coming. We get a nice shot of his butt again.
Yeah, the best farewell possible.
What is with that, like, jump in the air?
I don't get it.
It's the best.
Boing.
Badoom.
Farewell.
But yeah, Garp has now been ordered to take in the Straw Hats. He's like, oh, damn it. Oh, well. And have we forgotten someone? Yes, Usopp. He's like, wait, crap. I thought they were supposed to, like, ask me to join them. So he's, like, running.
Well, we get a flashback here, which is very important, where Zoro...
Oh, yeah.
This is crucial. And Zoro kind of lays out why you can't just let him back in, because otherwise, why are we going to respect him? Any of us could just say that and get back in.
It's one of the things I love about Zoro. He didn't start off as a pirate, but man, he is a voice of reason, and he looks at, like, this was a great moment for him to say, hey, he insulted us by quitting our crew. You don't just bring him back. He has. We're
not playing a game here. This is important.
This is one of the reasons why I believe Zoro, if anyone on the crew, represents the first mate of the Straw Hats.
Yeah, just right here. It's like, this guy may be an idiot, and he's like bopping him on the head with a sword. Yeah. But this is Zoro.
Sanji also says he might be an idiot, but he's right. Yeah,
but he's still he's our captain.
Right.
Zoro has this just respect for Luffy, that Luffy is the captain. He says the final say. We follow his orders. It says a lot about Zoro's character.
And Luffy is persuaded, remembering kind of just how serious it was at that time.
But then Usopp eventually makes it to the shore, and he's like, "Oh, hey, you guys forgot about me. Hey, come on, let's keep doing the things we're doing.
I could be the first mate."
But Chopper's like, "Hey, Usopp's calling you." He's like, "I don't hear anything." And Usopp's like, "Seriously, you're really gonna leave me behind?" And then,
meanwhile, Garp is throwing by hand cannonballs in like insane fashion. It's great.
And we also forgot to mention now. Was it Aokiji?
Aokiji
is hanging out on Garp's. Hey, Kiji is hanging out on Garp's ship. just chilling. He's not even participating in trying to catch the Straw Hats.
But finally, Usopp comes to his senses and lets out one big apology. And
This also makes me tear up.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
He needed to do that. I mean, you notice when you read, this was just such a great culmination because the entire time we've been reading this read through, you have Usopp calling him, I'm Captain Usopp, and Chopper, responding with that, or he's just been so full of himself. I mean, at the same time, he really knows that he's the weak one. He knows he has limitations, and I think that's probably part of the compensation thing. But it's just so important here for him to say, not just I'm sorry, but I'm sorry for being so stubborn. I know, I'm pathetic that I said I already quit, but can I take it back? And please let me join. I think that's just such an important scene. And then seeing Luffy break down too. And saying we're finally all together again. It's just such a not bittersweet, just sweet moment. And they're ready to set sail. We get a final moment here talking about naming the ship the Thousand Sunny, or as Frankie would have called it, the Frankie Lion Gang Champion, or as Zoro would have called it, the Big Boss Lionel. Monsieur Sunflower from
Robin.
No, that's Sanji. Robin is on Kokumaru, which I should probably ask someone what that's referring to.
Isn't it like Death Flower or Death Blossom?
Luffy just saying random, probably. Luffy just saying Dumpling Gorilla Lion, or I think he had a few others in there. Just saying random words.
Okay, yeah, they take off.
Well, Luffy's like, going to be serious now. We're going to take off. And I love this little confrontation as Garp swings the giant cannonball.
Giant cannonball.
Where did this thing come from?
Maybe it keeps it underwater. It might be the ship's anchor.
Shit. Probably shouldn't throw that.
Yeah.
And they Kuda burst away. And that's that. But there's something... I mean, first we go around the world, and we should probably talk about this.
We see Smoker and Tashigi, and man, Tashigi got hot.
Yeah, Smoker without a shirt on.
Man, Smoker got hot.
Yeah. They both are, okay?
Yeah.
But he's a Commodore now, and she's an ensign, so that's the post-Alabasta promotions there.
Right. Yeah, and speaking of Alabasta, we see Cobra and his
cohorts,
royal staff maybe, and they're like, wait, Luffy's allied himself with Miss All Sunday, and Vivi was all people like, it's cool. I'm sure Luffy has his reasons.
He will become the king of the pirates.
Good to see her again.
And what is it? Cobra and Igaram are crying or something. And Vivi's like, what are you crying about? And we head to the crew again, who are cheersing, and then we go around the world here. I love this part in the anime, especially.
I always love catching up with the Straw Hats, their respective families or characters that they grew up with before joining.
I mean, marathoning this just makes me appreciate these things more. Mm-hmm. So we get Zeph and the Baratier,
them laughing at his wanted poster. We see Whoop Slap. What would Dodon think about this? Who the hell's Dodon? Who is Dodon? What would Garp think about this? We see Kaya and the
and Onion, Carrot, and Apple.
Yeah, who are not
Pepper.
Yeah, who are not fooled by Soka King at all.
Yeah,
no. I mean, no one should be.
No.
We see Zoro Sensei, and all the kids are like, "Oh, teach us how to be a pirate." He's like, "I'm gonna teach you how to be a pirate."
We got Nojiko and Gen. That's his name.
Genzo.
Right?
Genzo. Yeah.
I was right. Good. Okay. I think it says there. I just forgot to read it just a second.
Genzo doesn't like the objectifying of Nami yet. He made a giant poster of it.
And we get a look at Belmir's grave as well there.
Then we head to the former Drum Kingdom, where we see Kureha, who now uses Loppins to get around.
It's the Blossom Kingdom now.
It's Blossom, yeah.
That's what it says it's called. And this part kind of made me tear up because it's like, it was just like a cute little scene here. Also, by the way, Dalton likes rice steamed with chestnuts.
Is Dalton king yet? Yeah, he's king.
He's king.
Yeah.
I love this whole little scene there. And then we head toward the Grand Line, Island of White Soil, Baltigo, where we hear what's apparently there have been insurgencies and victories. We could presume we're here with the revolutionaries. And then this shadowed individual sees the Straw Hat Pirate wanted bounties and, 667 million and 50 berries. And we find out that it is Monkey D. Dragon. And we get a sense of him and saying the day will come soon when we meet. And then we head back 3 days. The way the anime did this, I like a lot more than the manga. The manga
was just one self-contained episode.
It's perfect. This is one of the things the anime did perfectly. But
pretty much, we finally got to it. Ace finally finds Blackbeard. And
Blackbeard has a plan. They saw the Straw Hats new wanted posters. Like, yep, let's go kill them.
Yeah. Well, no, this is before the wanted posters came out. So, no, it was right after.
No, it was right after that. They actually hinted at this when they're during the Whitebeard Shanks confrontation.
Right. Yeah. And you get just this insane fight with first just Ace wrecking up the place, and then we find out at the very end of Volume 5. That 45, sorry, not 5. That Blackbeard is made of darkness.
Oh, this reveal! I remember the year this came out was literally the year-end chapter, and you had to wait like 2 to 3 weeks before you find out what that meant.
Like this transitional arc couldn't get better enough. Then it's like, oh my god, Blackbeard has
some darkness,
dark fruit, and it looks freaking amazing in the manga. I love the way it's inked.
It's the same way Oda does like Crocodile Sand ability, but now with dark ink. Yeah.
Oh man, it's this is great. It's a great anime episode too. But man, it's so awesome to see Ace get to kick a little more ass, show a lot more of his techniques.
We don't get to see that yet.
Freaking Bird just throws a house at him. Oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And the fight's mostly contained in this first chapter in 46, which we're just going to talk about, so we don't have to make it, between 2 different weeks.
Okay.
I mean, what do you guys just think of this fight in general? I guess I could say, because this is kind of its own thing.
It's one of the more iconic One Piece fights, and it's a game changer, that's for sure. Ace loses. A lot of people thought Ace. I don't know if I should talk about it yet. I'll wait till it's gone back to later, but
the Reverie, we'll talk about that.
It's still pretty clear Ace is on the losing side of the fight.
Yeah, well, he definitely lost.
It's
we reveal all of what the darkness fruit is capable of, which is like it's like the grandfather of devil fruits. It can remove a fruit user's ability by touch, and it seems to have some like weird black hole dark gravity power.
Mm-hmm. We still to this day don't really know the extent of this power, or why Blackbeard wanted it so specifically beyond the ability to kind of steal the devil fruit power.
That he killed a crew member for it.
Yeah, I mean, Blackbeard doesn't seem like the kind to care that much about that, but who knows? We don't know. And that it's going to be a trigger to major events to follow, which is a great transition into our Reverie segment, which will be spoilery. So I hope you guys enjoyed this extended version of the red line. Why don't we get into the next segment?
Sweet.
This is the Reverie segment where we all come together from a commonwealth of different nations and discuss what we think things look like in retrospect with this arc.
Commonwealth, it's all my wealth.
We have here Ed, as usual.
Hello.
And we have Brian still with us.
Yep.
Steve did not want to be spoiled or something, so he left. Let's say that's the reason. So there's a lot of interesting things. I think first, Brian, you brought up a good point before we started recording, and that's kind of how Enies Lobby sets a new pace for the series going forward. If you want to talk about that.
Well, like during Water 7, it was such like a long slog of an arc, and then going to Enies Lobby, then coming back to Water 7. It was literally like another 2-year arc that we've we're currently finishing.
Well, 7 volumes is around 2 years. I think it's 4 volumes a year usually, so it's at least 2 years.
Yeah, and so like after every arc after this was progressively shorter. Like Thriller Bark was only a year. Shabadi, Amazon Lily, I think Impel Down was within a year, and then the war was like half a year. So it's just like everything sped up at that point.
And then everything slowed the hell down because Fishman Island was a full year's worth of stuff. Punk Hazard was a year. Dressrosa was... I don't think it's ever going to end, really. I don't...
Yeah. It's funny how, like, we've already spent, like, over 4.5 years in the New World after the time skip. It hasn't felt like it's been that long.
Well, that's because it's been the equivalent of around a week.
For the Straw Hats.
For the Straw Hats. Even though it's been 4 years for us.
And, like, we also got... It's funny, this, during Water 7 Enies Lobby is when we get the introduction of Gears, and now we have Gear 4.
Yes, it's true. It's a very cool introduction there. Obviously, the stuff that happens in Ohara impacts things beyond what we know.
It's like the fuel for my conspiracy theory about the world government destroying the world and remaking it, because it always takes me back to that, like, however 6 moon astronomical
6.5,
model.
because there's the other moon that revolves around that.
Well, it's even funny you mentioned destroying the world, and we never get the answer on why Enies Lobby is the Nevernight Island with a giant hole that never fills either.
that is very odd. I have a feeling it has something to do with something 800 years ago, because we know Enies Lobby existed for 800 years unfettered.
Well, it's also interesting. It's like Enies Lobby, the island parts only feel like part of an island, and this whole arc was about like ancient weapons that could destroy islands.
It's I've been writing a lot about this lately, sorry, so it's really on the mind. But
the Buster Call is like their pale imitation of what a Pluton could do.
Yeah.
Buster Call is probably nothing when we get to the stuff at the end of this series, I'm sure.
When
we finish
this, like Dragon Ball.
When we do the read through, volume 76 through 105 million, I don't know, some very high number. If you think about it, and this was kind of scary, so we've done 250 manga recaps, and 250 episodes prior, 250 manga chapters prior to where we began the podcast and Impel Down would have been just about the beginning of the Water 7 stuff we did, which is crazy. And so 250 chapters from now is going to be a little bit, it's going to be well past chapter 1000. So, which
we'll get there.
I'm sure we will get there. So it kind of just, you really get a perspective of the world, I think, is what I'm trying to say in this arc. I think the bulk of what I want to talk about is in volume 45. And I know the Reverie segment, unfortunately, we can't cover everything that's important because there's a lot. And I don't want to spend another 3 hours talking about that. But volume 45, there's a reason we kind of went through it quickly, and that's because all this stuff is very important. And we get the Adam and Eve trees in Fishman Island, right?
The Eve.
Or we get the Eve,
is the one that's underwater.
We don't know anything about where the Adam is yet.
No.
Okay, I want to make sure.
It's on a certain island, I believe.
I hate to say, I'm excited to read the Fishman Island arc again, because I forgot everything that happened in that arc. And there's actually some super, super, super important things covered and surrounded by things that are not as important.
Well, especially towards the end of that arc, for sure.
Probably next to volume 45, volume 60... Is that 66 or 64 or something? Is probably
66, I think.
It's probably one of the more important volumes to the big, big, big picture of One Piece. Not just like, oh, there's a Kaido and there's a Whitebeard. I mean, that's all important. I mean, Kaido obviously is who we're headed toward now. And with all the pirate alliances in the New World, and you kind of hear the territory, Garp going through all of this stuff that now is much more prescient. It's very interesting to see the seeds planted at this point for what we're going through at this moment. Also, Fishman Island is the next stop, guys.
Yeah,
Of
it's
course
only
it
going
is.
to take us 2 years to get there.
At least,
Yeah.
right?
And then there's also all the ramifications from the Ace and Blackbeard Shanks incident. Like, what does it mean, like, that Blackbeard is the one who gave Shanks his scars?
It's
Well-
very odd.
Oh, there's something Oda's been setting up that in One Piece you can have these like scars that are both like physical and mental that like form your rivals. Like Luffy now has a scar in his chest from Aku Inu.
Mm-hmm.
During the loss of his
Roger
brother.
and Whitebeard said the same thing about Roger.
Yeah, all the scars he had that he remembers that he got from Roger.
And seeing Kobe also announce that he's going to be an admiral, and we've seen him. Well, hockey is really first introduced prominently here. I mean, obviously it happened in Skypiea, but we see it, and we know Kobe's going to get it. This is where my train of thought was. But Shanks demonstrates it to a much more devastating effect than we've really seen in the series, because he like actively wipes out people who are probably relatively strong. They're in Whitebeard's crew. Even the newbies are probably not super.
You're like Rockstar, right?
They're at least Rockstar's level, I would think.
Yeah.
But you see just a much more. It's something very. It seems like it's more than what we've even seen thus far.
I remember when this chapter premiered, and no one was translating as hockey. Surprisingly, one of the early translations I saw was will or willpower.
Which is accurate as well. I mean, that's kind of what it means.
Right. And so I always thought the symbolism behind that was gigantic. The fact your willpower is so powerful that you can just
That is what it is.
It is, I know.
Yeah.
So that implication for the larger scheme of what this world and what hockey is like really nice touch for Oda.
I mean, we've known he's had this kind of conqueror's king hockey before. We saw it at the very beginning. And I love how he just throws these little hints. And I mean, hockey is something that we're going to talk about, not this week, but we're going to talk a lot about 2 weeks from now when we get to Shabati, which is going to be a very short episode, but we have a lot to talk about. And also just the stuff. This is all the stuff leading up to the Whitebeard War. And
yeah.
And they always wonder if Marco ended up joining with Shanks now that he took him up as his offer. Now that Whitebeard's dead.
I tweeted that because it's a good question.
That was you who tweeted that. I saw that. Yeah.
Because I was reading it, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe now it makes sense that he would say yes, because Shanks. I mean, of the four emperors, Shanks seems like the nicest guy. Next to Whitebeard, I guess, if you were on his crew. Blackbeard seems like the most devious.
I still don't know anything really about Big Mom, we know a little bit about Big Mom from
Big
Fishman
Mom seems not like someone I'd want to hang out with.
She's unstable.
Yeah.
We really know nothing about Kaido, so I mean now that
we know he's kind of unstable.
Well, now that Doflamingo has been taken out, we'll probably get something from him. So
yeah,
at some point. Yeah.
For those listening to this years in the future, you probably know already the answer.
Oh, and just as a follow up from something we mentioned before, they did give Khalifa's father a name. His name is Lasky.
Oh,
interesting.
Did the other guy have a name then?
No, as far as I can tell, it's just him.
Is there anything else you guys want to talk about as concerns?
Well, we want to talk about Dragon. Finding out that he is Luffy's father is
a pretty big one.
It's quite amazing. Although, and we see later that Robin spends all this time with him, like after she's at Tequila Wolf.
And
what
we
the
now
hell
know
is Tequila Wolf? What's that bridge for?
Oh,
we'll talk about
we
that
don't
more
know
next time. Not next time, but when we get to it. It's
So
really
that's
interesting.
2 episodes to go, but yeah, like she never
At least,
mentions like the fact she never mentions that to Luffy that she hung out with his dad.
I hate how Robin never talks about that.
Well,
Also, Luffy wouldn't care. I don't think.
No, I don't think it would.
Part of that's her personality. Part of that's not important.
Yeah, I guess. Unless Dragon said like, "Hey, can you say hi to my son for me?"
And then she just says no. Then Robin's not right.
No, that ain't right. It's very interesting. I mean, this whole volume, volume 45, sets the pieces for the Paramount War that's to come, and and a much bigger picture stuff even than that. And it's very cool to see. Are there any other points? I mean, there are other points, but are there any other points you want to mention?
we can. I guess we can talk about like Aokiji a little bit, like the fact that he ended up having to leave the Marines after a conflict between his justice and between Sakazuki's justice.
Yeah,
As we see the foreshadowing from that here, and that's just the way the world seems to be going at this point, and we don't really know.
I love how early that seed is planted.
Oh, yeah, and I want to talk about something else later, but the implications of how the world government deals with justice and what Marines kind of start. Every Marine seems to interpret their own justice, like Smoker, Aokiji, Shakazuki, and even Saul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to non sequitur, or going back to something. We were talking about the hockey that was emitted by Shanks, and the weird thing about it. So he has the normal Conqueror's hockey, makes people pass out and foam at the mouth, but he also made the ship kind of crack and snap open, just I assume from the same power, which makes me wonder what the full physical manifestation of this willpower is, because you notice there's like a little panel there.
Yeah, I caught that too.
And it's odd. It's different than anything we've seen. So that's volume 45, page 73 for those wondering.
Well, the thing Oda always does, Oda is really good about upping the scale. So we've only, like, where we are right now in the series during Dressrosa, we've only seen like a piece of the scale of the world, and like we honestly haven't had like an Emperor fight yet.
That's going to be intense.
Yeah.
That's going to be nuts. I don't know
because we've only been doing Warlord level.
How is Luffy going to get that strong? I mean, yes, Doflamingo's probably one of the strongest warlords. I mean, we don't know what the last one is.
Yeah. Who remember Whitebeard? Whitebeard's flipping island, so...
Well, Whitebeard was the strongest pirate in the world, it was said, so... I mean, Kaido and Big Mom are probably a little stronger than they used to be, but they're probably still weaker than Whitebeard was. Blackbeard is definitely stronger than Whitebeard was.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. And Shanks is probably weaker than Whitebeard was. But who knows?
Who knows, really, yeah, at this point. And what ends up happening when Luffy and Shanks finally meet again? I mean, that's at the end, but, you know?
Since we get a lot of stuff with Shanks in 45 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other thing I want to mention was the potential agendas of the Goroshi, or the Elder Stars, and that how we mentioned how they seem sympathetic to the fact, or at least they didn't want to pull the trigger on Ohara. But in those panels, something Oda's already been good about, I think I've mentioned you guys before, is that Oda never shies away from showing like younger versions of characters. So we got like Spadane when he was young. We've seen him now when he's old. Spidam, sorry. Spanda. Well, we've seen Spadam when he was younger too.
Call him whatever you want, because I don't really care.
Yeah, that jackass. We've seen like Sengoku, of course, the Straw Hats, and just like the Admirals. We've seen more or less versions when they're younger, Garp as well. But he went out of his way to obscure the 5 Elder Stars. And I think
this is Ed's theory too. Yeah, I know.
Well, because I didn't remember reading it in the manga like that. But yeah, they are concealed in the flashback.
Yeah, I don't think I really picked up on that until closer to the war. Like, I definitely didn't think about this during Ohara, but when I saw the war, I was like, how come we've never seen them young? I'm like, maybe they're immortal.
Or ageless at the very least.
At the very least, yeah. So
and what exactly is their relationship to the Tenryubito? Are the Celestial Dragons? Are they one of the Celestial Dragons? Or are the Celestial Dragons above them? Like, what's the real highest point of the world? You know?
Yeah, they seem to now work for them. At first, I thought they were the peak. Now I'm like, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
It's very complex as to maybe it's the kings, the Reverie. You know, how do they fit into all of the power structure? Maybe you should have a simpler system, world government. I know you're. I mean,
it does kind of make sense that there are the five elders, because like
the 5 points of the world,
5 C's. Or well, technically there's 6, but it's the Grand Line is both. But
yeah.
That's what I always assumed those symbolized, because you had the 4. You had the 4 and the 1 in the middle, and
and now like that theory doesn't seem as far fetched since the revelation of the Appa fruit.
Yeah, we have to assume then 5 people died for each of them. I don't know if that's what it is. I think,
There's a lot can happen in 100 years.
or 800 years.
No, I'm talking about the specific Void Century.
Yeah. Well, it's not only that they're ageless, it seems. It seems they have the same exact outfit and same exact facial hair.
They do move around that palace of theirs, though.
Not very much, though. I've seen them
they're always
outside
together.
once, and they're
You
always
never see
together.
them separate, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've also not seen very much of them to the point, I think, every time we see them, they're reintroduced. They have the Oda box almost every time we see them.
Because people forget.
Because people forget. Very interesting stuff. And we see them very briefly in this section. I mean, we see them once in 45 and a little bit in 41. I'm sorry, a bit in 45 and a lot more in 41. But I don't know. It's very interesting, the history behind the government. I just suggest people read my article when it comes out. I'm pimping it, but it's thanks to, Brian and Ed are what really inspired me to write it. So
You're welcome.
thank you.
Not you, just the people in general.
And hopefully you guys like it when that comes out, because I may basically just go into what we're talking about here to like an extreme level.
I love that someone did it. I love that someone wrote that article.
I had to do it. It's been like,
thank you for doing what I could not.
it's been obsessively racking my brain. It's all I've been able to like think about the last.
That's why
few
we did the
weeks.
read through in the first place, Zach.
So I become an obsessive conspiracy theorist.
We were uncovering new insights about One Piece.
Brian.
Another small thing we can talk about is the Merry Soul, or the Kabbalah Man, or whatever that's referred to.
Kabbalah Man.
Yeah. Yes. Well, now we saw this. This is one of the first time we've seen it like manifest in a way where like the Straw Hats recognize it as well.
An iceberg.
Yeah, an iceberg.
Yeah.
And now that we've seen Big Mom's ship with the talking ship, I'm just waiting for the fact that now their new ship, the Sunny, might start exhibiting some like spiritual entity, and then
that
becomes a life form too.
I don't know if that's like something.
I think that's a fully realized Kabbalah Man.
Interesting. I mean, It is One Piece, and I've learned not to doubt anything. Once Eneru stepped on the moon in volume 44 here. Don't doubt anything you see. It could be real. What was it says in volume 24?
Anything that's possible to be dreamed of can be a reality.
Wow, you memorized that.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that. Anyway, this is a very fun stretch. Thank you guys for going through this with me. Why don't we round off?
All right.
Sure.
Next week, we're going to be going through the Thriller Bark Arc, volumes 46 through 50, covering the Thriller Bark Arc. And we're going to stop it before we get to the Shabadi, however you want to pronounce that arc. Shabundi. Shapoopy. So we're going to have special guest Joey Weiser. He is the Eisner Award nominated artist and creator of Merman. And he also does the SpongeBob SquarePants comics, I believe, right? We're also going to have Tiffany from Crunchyroll on for that one. If anything changes with that, we'll let you know. We did book these a while back, so there's always the possibility of that changing. So we're really looking forward to talking about those with some special guests.
It's a good arc.
Probably going to be shorter episodes, because we're going to have, after that, we're not really doing a one anywhere close to this long until our last episode, which is going to be a real marathon.
Can't we just splice in old manga recaps for that?
I wasn't going to tell people, and I was just going to do that and see if anyone noticed.
Damn it, Steve, you ruined it for evereverone.
Damn
Mostly
it.
Zach.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, it would probably take me a lot more time to splice in manga recaps for like 100 episodes than it would to just talk about it. So yeah, look forward to that next week. That's going to come out. It might come out a day late just because of all the conventions and stuff around the season. So it might come out on July 17th. So be warned, somewhere around there. Anyway, Steve, how can the good people contact you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Steve Yurko, and follow me on Tumblr, steveyurko.tumblr.com.
Brian, where can people find you?
I'm easily found on Dark King Zoro on Twitter, and my DeviantArt is Banendorf, and look for new episodes of Rick and Morty and Teen Titans Go. That's where I direct.
And Ed, where could the good people find us?
Zach, you are Zach_Logan on Twitter. I am Edward E. Festizio. The podcast is at OnePiecePodcast.com, Twitter.com, YouTube.com, and Facebook.com/OnePiecePodcast. One Piece Podcast is our Skype name. OnePiecePodcast@gmail.com is our email address. OnePiecePodcast.tumblr.com for news updates and funny pictures. Subscribe on SoundCloud, subscribe on Stitcher, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, or call us on our phone number. Zach?
Our phone number is 347-497-MAGI. That phone number again is 347-497-6254. Call anytime. Good this week, guys. Questions, comments, theories. We'll be back.
If you want to say you want to live, we'll listen to that too.
We have a special One Piece podcast coming this week. We will have Greg on the show, which is the first time in a while. So this will be our 250th manga recap, including Chapter 0. So we're very excited to have Greg on for that. Please send in your questions, comments, and theories heading up to that. We hope you've been enjoying these read-throughs as much as us. We are done with this Water 7 Enies Lobby stuff. Excited to see some haunted stuff in Thriller Bark. So, again, the assignment for next week is 46 through 50. We'll see you then, everyone. My name is Zach.
My name is Ed.
We'll see you next week, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thriller Bark Arc. Thriller Bark Arc. Bark Arc. Thriller Bark Arc. Bark Arc. Bark Arc. Bork Bork. That's the name of the Ancient Kingdom, Zach. Oh, I've been shot. Okay.